Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 20th regular meeting of Council. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. We also have Councillor Hemmons, who's in attendance electronically tonight. Welcome, Councillor Hemmons. Tonight's regular meeting of Council is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. And if during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the question period sign-up sheet, which is on the table by the double doors to my left. And please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw states that questions will only be taken on staff reports, consent items, or other business items. Before we start the meeting, I would like to take a few moments to remind those who are attending in person about the rules of decorum for Council and committee meetings. A meeting of Council is intended to be a place where democracy can freely take place in a respectful and safe manner. The Council chambers is a workplace, and there are considerations Council and staff must make to ensure that a safe work environment exists in accordance with WorkSafe BC regulations. To support this, and in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw, disrespectful conduct will not be tolerated, so we ask that there be no cheering or jeering or other outbursts from the gallery at any time. Furthermore, the use of electronic devices for recording or photographing is prohibited unless otherwise authorized by the chair. This will ensure that anyone speaking, whether it be a delegation, member of council, or staff, is not interrupted and can make their point freely without distraction, fear of ridicule, or intimidation. In instances where a speaker is being inappropriate or has exceeded their time limit, their microphone will be cut off. Similarly, if there are outbursts by any person in the gallery, they will be asked to stop, and if they do not comply, they may be asked to leave as permitted under Section 133 of the Community Charter. If necessary, Council may call a recess in order to reset the environment of Council chambers. It is our belief that if everyone is respectful of these basic considerations, this meeting and all future meetings will be more effective in furthering the business of the City of Nanaimo. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items, Ms. Gurry, and tonight we have a number, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. For late items this evening, we have item 8B, 2025 Nanaimo 55 BC Game Summary of Events. We're adding a PowerPoint presentation from the committee. We are adding agenda item 9C, minutes from the Finance and Audit Committee meeting held in the Shaw Auditorium on October 15th, 2025 at 9 a.m. We're adding the following delegations for item number 13C, rezoning application number RA512 for 2367 Arbit Road. There was one delegation that signed up prior to the agenda printing last Wednesday. That was Lois Powell. And in addition, we have Rachel Sansom, Land Development Consultant from Greyland Consulting Ltd., Darcy Ross, Sharon Kofed, Paul Steele, Danya Sutherland Baker, Executive Director, Bethlehem Center Society, Marilyn Hand, John Blackman, and Jerry Hand. And then lastly, Your Worship, for item 13C, rezoning application, we are reordering the list of delegations to start with Rachel Sampson, the consultant, and reordering the subsequent delegations in the order which they were received. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Mayor's report. I have a few items tonight, not too many. The first is to recognize that the City of Nanaimo is proud to honor the late Bill Merrilees by renaming the Buttertubs Marsh Viewing Tower the Bill Merrilees Viewing Tower. In partnership with Nature Trust of BC, the city will also refurbish the structure to ensure it continues to serve as a welcoming space for nature enthusiasts. For more than 40 years, Bill Merrilees dedicated himself to the conservation and enhancement of Buttertubs Marsh. As founder and chair of the Friends of Buttertubs, he championed the marsh as a protected nature preserve, prioritizing environmental stewardship over recreation. His efforts led to the creation of the Buttertubs Trail, expansion of the marsh's protected lands, and installation of interpretive signage and wildlife features. Mr. Merrilees also played a key role in community engagement, producing a printed nature guide and supporting research projects with VIU students. His legacy lives on in the thriving ecosystem he helped nurture and protect. And I might add, for those of you in this community, and there are many who knew Bill Mariles, this was just one aspect of his incredible contribution to this province around environmental issues and this kind of research and volunteer work that he provided for this community. It's a completely fitting and appropriate way to honor Bill's legacy. The next is a little more exciting, particularly for those of you who have children and grandchildren. As part of Emergency Preparedness Month and in support of this year's Fire Prevention Week, Nanaimo Fire Rescue is opening the doors of Fire Station Number 1 to the public for a special open house on Tuesday, October 21st from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Residents of all ages are invited to come explore the station, meet local firefighters, and learn more about fire safety. Highlights of the event will include new fire trucks on display, interactive fire safety house, public education exhibits focused on fire prevention. It's a great opportunity for families, students, and community members to engage with fire services, ask questions, and gain valuable safety knowledge in a fun and welcoming environment. And just for those of you who don't know, Fire Station Number 1 is the one located at 666 Fitzwilliam Street, right across from the police station. That's it for my report. We have nothing to rise on report tonight, Ms. Gurry. The next item is presentations, and the first one is 2025 Creative City Impact Award for Cultural Events. Ms. Bhopal Singh, you're going to introduce that, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is with great pride and pleasure that we announce that the City of Nanaimo is the recipient of the 2025 Creative Impact Award for Cultural Events. Some of you may know that or may not know that the Creative City Network of Canada is a professional municipal association dedicated to strengthening arts and culture. So the recognition of our city by peer professionals across the country is significant. So this award is coming to Nanaimo for demonstrating visionary leadership by initiating, creating, and producing a distinctive cultural event, or by empowering and supporting a community initiative that led to an exceptional cultural event. Overall, the Creative City Impact Awards highlight outstanding municipal work completed over the last 2 years that fosters creativity, inclusivity, cultural vibrancy across the country. So for those of you hopefully in this room who were able to attend Luminous Paths, Nanaimo's 150 and Beyond, it was a month-long winter festival held between January 22nd to February 17th of this year. It was set in Maffeo Sutton Park. It was a free, accessible community event that commemorated Nanaimo's first council meeting on January 22nd, 1875. And this event transformed and lit up the downtown. And in terms of council's city plan, this event checked off so many boxes, from programming to recreation, arts, culture, bringing people together, providing a free, accessible event over the course of the winter, and also attracting people in what's called the off-season, and really putting us on the map for an event locally and for visitors. So this was funded through the Government of Canada, through the Canadian Heritage Building Communities Arts and Heritage Grant. It was also funded by the City of Nanaimo and Council, and it united the art, history, and community, and it leaving a lasting impression on our cultural landscape. We also, through it, had many artists that had unique installations, and the aim of it was to bring in equitable opportunities for community members of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds to engage and experience and contribute to our arts and culture scene. So without further ado, this whole event was curated by our arts and culture team, and I'd like to acknowledge several people here today, including Jamie Brett Sine, who is the cultural coordinator. It was her vision for this festival that was then realized with council's support, and we want to show our appreciation for her. She's currently working to acquire sponsorships for council's consideration of a 2026 event of Luminous Paths. And also I'd like to acknowledge Adrian Mercer-Breen, who is the Manager of Culture and Special Events, who's with us by Zoom today, and also Darcy Osborne, who supports the whole team. So this collaboration also is across all departments of the city who help make it happen. So arts and culture have to work across the city to get things done, from our engineering team to sometimes planning, all of these different components. So without further ado, if Your Worship would like to acknowledge Ms. Syme.
I certainly would, and as Ms. Sign
And
is coming
Osborne.
down, I just want to say, in a cynical age where sometimes there's so much negativity, it's worthwhile noting the presentation of this award tonight, but also the fact that the city won provincial, international, and national awards for the work on Metro Drive, for financial reporting, for some of our projects around this community in the last few years. I just want to say that to reference back to someone who negatively once said Nanaimo was a coal town with a coal town mentality back in 1971, as I recall, when I was in first year college. We have come a long ways, and tonight's award and presentation reflects that we have indeed come a long ways. So congratulations to the team. You come down, we'll do a formal presentation, and someone will take a photograph, I hope. Thank you very much. The next item is another success story for Nanaimo, I might add, is the 2025 Nanaimo 55 Plus BC Games Summary of Events. Ms. Bhopal Singh, you're going to introduce it, and we have a presentation to follow from Ms. Osborne, our Head of Parks and Recreation, Grace Bell, Manager Sports and Arenas, Diana Johnson, President, Nanaimo 55 Plus BC Games Society, and Jen Houtby Ferguson, Director, Nanaimo 55 BC Games Society. Welcome to all of you. Ms. Bhopal Singh.
Okay, through Your Worship to Council, it's again my great pleasure, and I want to acknowledge staff who, both with Luminous Paths and the 55 Plus, I got to enjoy the fruit of this labor. Because in the first week that I started, the 55 Plus Games kicked off. So this is the second time that Nanaimo has had the privilege of hosting these games. The first time was in 2007, and most recently in September of this year, with great attendance, over 2,700 participants, and over 1,000 volunteers. And one of the things I'd like to note before I hand over to Ms. Osborne is this event, both the process and the outcome, symbolizes the ultimate that we hope for in community development, in terms of community pride of all the different staff, partners, the 55 Plus Games Committee, sponsors that came together. And again, when we look at City Plan, this event checked off so many of Council's goals, from a prosperous Nanaimo, bringing in sports tourism and attracting so much different attention to our city, a healthy Nanaimo, obviously, with all of the different ability for people to participate. And I must admit, I'm so impressed when I saw somebody who was 102 participating in these games. That was really something to aim for. Also, the pride and the placemaking that this allowed us to do was really outstanding for our city, and shows just what we can do in partnership with so many different communities supported by our Parks, Rec and Culture team. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Darcy Osborne, who will do more acknowledgements. Thank you.
Ms. Osborne, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The 55 Plus BC Games were a tremendous success in Nanaimo just a little over a month ago. The event showcased Nanaimo not just to the residents of Vancouver Island, but to all of British Columbia. And not only did it showcase the beauty of our city, which, fortunate for us, happened to be one of the most spectacular weeks of weather we had in September, but it also showcased our spectacular sporting venues that we are fortunate to have within our city, the wonderful parks and open spaces that hosted many of the different events and cultural activities, but it also really showcased how special the people are in our community and when they come together for events such as this. One of our most special citizens, of course, is Miss Diana Johnson, who is president of the Nanaimo 55 Plus Games. Diana has a tremendous gift of bringing people together, And many, many times over the course of the week, I heard people say, who can say no to Diana? And I think that that is a really great representation of someone who truly believes in community and making it a better place for all. Diana worked along with Mary Smith as a vice president, and together they pulled together a truly incredible board of community-minded citizens who worked effortlessly and tirelessly throughout the build-up to the event, but throughout the event itself. Diana and several of her board members are here tonight in the audience, and Diana Johnson, our president, and Jen Hope B. Ferguson, who is director of promotions, have put together a wonderful presentation to summarize the week's events. And it starts, if you look at, with those two beautiful smiles up on the screen there. So I'd like to invite Diana and Jen up to the...
Good evening, you two, and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Hi, Council.
I was going to say, I can't resist saying it, put on your game faces.
Thank you, Darcy, for that nice introduction. Lots of people do say no to me. It makes me sound kind of bossy. And I'm not a bossy person. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for having us tonight. And thank you so much to the Mayor and Council for the wonderful support you gave us throughout the 18 months of our games. We were encouraged by Councillor Thorpe at all of our meetings and really enjoyed his presence at our board table. So thank you personally to Councillor Thorpe from all of our team. We had a lot of fun. It was 18 months of commitment, but I think very few people had anything grievous to say about it. It's been wonderful getting all of the emails in from our citizens and our hoteliers and participants who had one of the most magnificent times. And I think we did exactly all we had to do. We had to leave a legacy of over 1,100 wonderful volunteers that will be the upcoming people that will lead events of this stature in the future. And a legacy of community pride, reinstilling and enforcing that community pride that we all feel so strongly. Nanaimo is a fantastic city, and there wasn't one complaint from any of our participants. Our venues were impeccable, immaculate, and the best many of them have performed on. So we're very, very proud, and we're very, very grateful to all the support you've given us. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to turn it over to Jen. But before that, we were given a nice gift from BCSGS, Mayor, and I'd like to give it to you.
Along with Councillor Thorpe.
Councillor Thorpe. I think it's just like hanging in the city office somewhere, and it's a lovely presentation. And there's lots of Zone 2 people here. You can see, so this is yours. Maybe our lovely liaison, Grace Bellman, had a spot in her office.
Who says no to Diana?
Nobody says no to Diana. Your Worship included. I don't know how you follow that, but I'm going to share just a few metrics. We think this is important from a report back, and I'll say, I think like Darcy, I'll echo some comments here. We had the opportunity to do this bid together, and for me, this was really a full circle moment. So I want to say thank you to Council and of course to Darcy and the team. But we had 2,700 participants here. Our goal was 2,500 and to exceed what had been done in the last 5 years, and we did that. So we had over 2,727 participants and supporters who came to our community. They stayed in our hotels, they ate in our restaurants, they wandered our beautiful waterfront, they enjoyed attractions, they went to the museum and the military museum and the art gallery and had an absolutely phenomenal time because Nanaimo rolled out the welcome mat. They participated in 21 different events at 20 venues, and the majority of those were City of Nanaimo venues. We really rolled out the welcome mat and showed them how stunning and awesome a place this is to compete. more than almost 1,100 volunteers. I think our final number was 1,067. And we had 350 pickleballers who broke the internet on the first day of registration, and we had to turn it off on the first day of registration for the first time ever. So 350, that was the maximum we could accommodate, and it was really awesome. Councillor Thorpe had the opportunity. We were down there together at pickleball a couple of times, and they were just beyond thrilled with the opportunity to compete here. We also had 2,500 paid hours for youth, and that was really something that we set out to do. We set out to identify opportunities for youth to learn within the sports system. We do that at VIU as well, and so it was really neat to see a few people come together. We had 4 different staff that were paid over the course of the summer, and we had an ops manager, Corey Hurst, who was just absolutely phenomenal. So 6 months of paid work for him as well. 2,500 medals handed out, over $300,000 paid to local suppliers. And Betty Brussels was mentioned before. So she's our 102-year-old swimmer, like beyond unbelievable. We had to add an age category for her because she is so incredible. And she walked into the opening ceremony carrying her zone's flag. We had 12 zones from across the province, and she got a standing ovation. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Mary, who happens to be Diana's mother, and at 106 sang O Canada at the opening ceremonies. I don't know anybody who didn't have goosebumps in that moment. These images, I think, convey the sentiment of the games, and that is just this real sense of camaraderie, this real community collaboration, people coming together to execute the games from all different walks of life. They cheered each other on, and I think the sportsmanship is really the thing that will stay with me, and just this immense pride that you could see brewing in our community over the days that we hosted this event. Disc golf, something that's really close to us here in Nanaimo, we debuted that here at our games, and I think that that's, again, really something that we can celebrate. We also had phenomenal weather, which thanks to Darcy for organizing that. That was great. And there were quite a number of events, and of course, council participated in many of these events, and we're really grateful for your support. It's important that the community, I think, see that leadership, and they certainly did. The Mixer at Maffeo was extremely well attended, and of course, in our beautiful waterfront. And the volunteer appreciation on September the 13th, was really a chance to say thank you to the people who supported these games. And we culminated that with a synchro swim team. I do have video if anybody would like to see that, but we did not share it publicly. But these events were phenomenal, and again, something we really outlined during the bid process. I think, and I'll say again, personally for me, and I think Darcy and I have talked a little bit about this, I think the opportunity to showcase our opening ceremony at Soroxman Stadium for me was kind of a goosebumps moment. We talked about it and talked about it. Can we make it happen? And we did, and it was awesome. And so again, thanks to our culture and events team, and of course, the city's team. These were the events in terms of how they landed. And ultimately, our financials are just being finalized. We should have those, Brian tells me, likely by the end of October. And we are also working on an economic impact assessment, and that will be a more formal report that will come forward via the PRC team under Darcy's leadership. And of course, Grace and Tourism Nanaimo are participating in that process. We are really looking, and I've had the opportunity to participate again in some of those conversations around what comes next. What new opportunities can we bring forward from a sport tourism perspective or from a major community development perspective? And so we're looking forward to those opportunities. The Legacy Committee has been established, and we anticipate having about $70,000 in funding to be able to share with our community, and that first meeting is on November the 5th. So looking forward to reporting back to council on that. And with that, I'll just say on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Nanaimo 2025 55 Plus BC Games, thank you for your support, and we're grateful.
Thank you very much, and on behalf of Mayor and Council, the staff of the city, and all the citizens, and frankly, on behalf of all those who participated in the games, a very sincere thank you to the whole team. And I must say rather cheekily, and Diana Johnson can, take me out to the woodshed afterwards, but her appearance belies her age. and which I'm not going to mention. And Mary Smith is younger than Diana, and I just think that I think it's 15 or 20 years down the road we get the games again. So I'm just putting in dibs now. If the two of you are interested in doing it one more time, it would be much appreciated.
Nobody
Given that
says no.
Diana's mom, as Jen pointed out, at 106 led us in O Canada rather magnificently, I see no reason not to ask her to do it one more time. But thank you.
Your Worship, if I may also just, I want to give kudos, and I didn't think I did it justice, just the amount of work and support that we also received from the city financially, but also in the way of a people power with Grace and the entire PRC team, like absolutely phenomenal. We could not have held this event without their support, and I think, you know, credit where credit is due, and Councillor Thorpe certainly heard us praise them over and over and over again, but that team is phenomenal, and they're a tremendous asset to this community. So thank you, and thanks also to your team.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is BC Housing, overview of BC Housing project in Nanaimo. We have Tara Schmidt, Acting Director, Regional Development for Vancouver Island, and accompanied by Jennifer Fox, the Regional Director for the Vancouver Island region. Thank you very much to both of you for coming, and thank you to everyone who's presented so far tonight. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Krogh and Council, and this is definitely a tough act to follow. This is like, wow, such good news tonight. My name is Tara Schmidt. I'm Acting Director of Regional Development for Vancouver Island, and I'm accompanied by my colleague Jennifer Fox, Regional Director for Operations. So we want to start off, and you've mentioned this previously, but a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we conduct our activities on the homelands of thousands of Indigenous peoples and many nations across British Columbia. And in particular tonight, we acknowledge with gratitude that the area we're discussing is situated on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation, who we are partners with as well. Our agenda for tonight is really just to provide the city with updates on developments that are happening in Nanaimo, and to highlight some recently completed projects that are in progress, and also to just acknowledge our work that we're doing in partnership with the Snuneymuxw First Nation, and talk a little bit about some positive impacts. For the developments in sorry, let me just check this quickly. It seems to be, sorry folks, it's a little bit out of order. Okay, so the developments in Nanaimo, we'll start off with the good news here, is we have 1,700 units completed or underway since 2017. So that's 1,350 that are completed, and we have about 350 currently in progress, not including projects such as Tutuxton or projects that are on reserve. So our goal together, and the work that we do really collaboratively with your staff, is working together with the city and the community partners to build urgently needed homes. And that includes working with several nonprofits within the city. We're building a mix of homes for peoples of all income levels and needs, including subsidized housing, seniors housing, transition housing for women and children leaving violence, supportive housing, and also helping people just move successfully into safe and stable housing. So we've been listening to the community and working together to build positive relationships and to support neighborhood inclusion. One thing I want to do is highlight some projects that are in progress, and these are some of our permanent supportive housing projects. The first being 355 Nicholl Street, which is 35 supportive homes for Indigenous people, which will be operated by the Snuneymuxw First Nation. And that project is well into permitting at this point. It has a development permit that's approved, and we have submitted for the building permit. We also have another permanent supportive housing project starting at 250 Terminal, and that will have 50 supportive homes, and then a second phase of that will be 34 affordable homes. So we're looking forward to having that also further underway. Phase 1 for the supportive homes is also well into its permitting process. The next is 1030 Old Victoria Road, which is also permanent supportive housing, and that one has rezoning and its development permit underway. Snuneymuxw First Nation are also involved on the Cranberry Avenue project, which will provide 42 affordable homes for Indigenous families. And then 564 5th Street is also called Tutuxton. That one is going to be a phased development, with the first phase being 200 homes, which will include 34 homes for those that had left Sinala. And 1298 Nelson Street, Sparrow will have 78 units of temporary housing with supports once that building achieves its permits. Other projects that we have in progress right now are 1850 Boxwood, which is 22 units of complex care, and this one has already passed its rezoning, and the building permit has been submitted. Park Edge Manor is one of our other stories, which is a good news story. It's phase 2 of a project by Woodgrove, the Woodgrove Seniors Society. And their first project was actually completed, I believe, a year ago. And Park Edge is now its second phase for seniors housing, and it will include 124 units. And construction has just recently started. And then we have another project that's also recently completed, which is the Haven Society's building for 47 units with women and children leaving violence. And that one opened earlier this year. Other projects that have completed include the 1300 Island Highway South, which is 50 units of temporary hearth housing with supports. And similarly, 1030 Old Victoria Road was also completed with 59 units of temporary hearth housing with supports. 702 Nickel Street is permanent supportive housing, and that one contains 51 units with 14 shelter beds. And 285 Prideaux Street, Cornerstone, contains 51 permanent supportive homes. And 250 Terminal contains 50 units of hearth housing with supports. Other projects that we're doing right now in the area with Snuneymuxw First Nations as partners include projects that we've been working on under our Memorandum of Understanding with the nation. The agreement focuses on nation-to-nation partnerships with the province and allows for development both on reserve and off reserve. And they currently have 3 projects on reserve. Warpath Road, Lalamutel has 8 complete homes, as you can see in this picture. And then we're working on 2 more projects on the same road. One is more townhouses, 16 homes, and one will be in a apartment building, 48 units. Other projects that we've been working on with the nation that are off reserve include Cedar Woman House, 10 units, Kennedy Street, 4 homes, 355 Nickel is the one that they will be operating, which is the permanent supportive housing. Cranberry Ave will contain the 42 homes for their families, and Tutuxton, where Snuneymuxw has been a wonderful knowledge partner. So just briefly, and I'll give you a moment to read this, this is the reason why we do this work, is just learning and listening to the people that we serve in these communities, and these are 2 examples from residents at some of our temporary supportive housing. So lastly, I just want to say we really truly thank you, the city. You guys have been wonderful partners to collaborate with, and we also want to acknowledge your incredible staff that have worked very diligently with our staff, and that's the only reason why we've been able to be so successful in this partnership. So just want to take a moment and say thank you for that.
Thank you very much. If we can have a few questions, I believe. Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I'm curious, BC Housing has a housing list. How is the success rate and the rate of building compared to that housing list in Nanaimo? What's the ratio? Are we need a lot more homes in this area for people who are on the BC housing list?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, and we could look into that and get back to you. I assume that there are people probably on the waiting list that are waiting to get on into housing, though. I know just across the province is we work really hard to try and keep up, but there's always people waiting for more housing.
You know, as Ms. Fox knows, I was the ED at the Unitarian Shelter for a number of years, and we saw a lot of seniors show up at the door, and working people, and had a student stay there at one point. So there's a lot of need in the community, and seniors are one group that I worry about in particular. I don't like to see seniors on the street at all. So there's a project, the other Woodgrove Seniors Building is going to be done soon. Are there other seniors projects on the horizon?
Well, that project came in through a request for proposal, and so it had to kind of beat out other proposals. So we also can only do projects, people have to apply for them. So if there's seniors projects that are out there, we welcome them to come in through an application.
Okay. Yep. You get an active application process, I understand.
We do, yep. We're currently in the middle of the Community Housing Fund Intake A at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the report. Thank you for what you're doing in Nanaimo, and we can always have more, but I appreciate what we've been getting so far. Thanks you.
Great.
I think Ms. Fox has something to add.
If I may just add to that answer, you may have seen recently that the province expanded the programs for SAFER and RAP, so SAFER being shelter assistance for elderly renters, and so we've got that as well as an opportunity for seniors in Nanaimo. And additionally, we have the strategic working group table through the Heart and Hearth MOU between the province and Nanaimo, where we're taking a data-informed approach to what the needs are. And so in addition to the point-in-time count information, we've also got demographics and more information about who needs housing, and that can inform decisions for housing and supports going forward as well. And Tara noted that we've got a rolling call for Community Housing Fund program as well for this
Thanks.
fiscal.
Yeah, I really appreciate the SAFER program. It's really important to keep people housed rather than trying to get housing through the shelter system. So I appreciate the increase in funding and focus on that program.
Thank you. In order, Councillors Armstrong, then Hemmons, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the numbers. I think it's important that people see that we're doing stuff besides just supportive housing, because that's what seems to make the news. But I am going to ask about the complex care housing going in on Boxwood, because that's generated a lot of conversation in the community. Could you just explain that there's going to be, like my understanding from when you were here last time, is there will be a proper intake process for that, and there will be supports on site, and it's not going to be run exactly the same as supportive housing? If I could have clarification, please.
Yeah, through the chair. The complex care program is supportive housing with extra. And so what I mean by that is we have an experienced operator who will come in to operate the site from a supportive housing viewpoint, and so have the staffing under that program, which is typically 2 staff 24/7. The overlay, though, is Island Health staffing. And so we've got clinical supports and programming that will be provided by Island Health in partnership with BC Housing and the operator of the site.
And I just think it's also important to note that there's only 22. It's not like your typical units that have 50 to 70, so it's going to be much more manageable for staff. And there's agreements in place with, like as you said, with VHA, which I think will be very beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Hemmons, the folks at the back, there's no need to stand. There's seating down over here and on the other side, if you care to come down. Councillor Hemmons, please.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to the presenters tonight for their information and for their work in our community. A question about timelines. You noted that the 250 terminal supportive housing, I'm not sure if you said the permits are in, but the development is on its way. The affordable component of that, when do we expect that to be online?
The affordable component, we would like to see that in construction within 2 years. And then it would be probably another, typically things take about 18 months to 2 years to construct. So it should be online within 4 years.
Thank you. And similar question to Tate Tuckton. I understand that project has undergone a slight change and we're now looking at a phased development. I'm really glad to hear that we're starting with 200 homes. Do we have a timeline on that?
Let me just check my notes and see if I have a timeline for that. Okay, so the master plan and the rezoning process was in 2023. DP issuance is targeted for 2026 and BP for fall 2026. So if all of that proceeds as per the plan, then construction should start in 2027.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere, please.
Thank you. Thank you for this information. Just on your note about BC Housing being committed to providing housing for people at all income levels and needs, I think one thing that our council has identified is a need for housing and shelter for people who are coming out of rehabilitation, who need to be in a place where it's like a dry facility, or where the people who are living there are not in active addiction. And I'm a really strong believer in the housing first approach, and I love that BC Housing does that, because it's really, really important. But housing first also needs to include housing for people who need to be in a safe, healing environment. And so I think seeing the broad range of programs and supports and projects that you're bringing to Nanaimo, I really hope that we can continue to work towards creating one that serves those needs. I also wanted to ask about the plan for the winter season, because BC Housing is also responsible for shelter spaces, and we know that looking at the data, and if we are taking a data-informed approach, we have a disproportionately high number of people who have no access to any kind of shelter bed during the winter season. So can you give me a sense of what our plan is going into this winter season, and what shelter beds BC Housing is going to be funding?
Through the chair, as you may know, BC Housing provides funding for extreme weather response, which is the nightly shelter that opens for having people come in from the cold. And the other program that we offer during season is the temporary winter shelter program. And that's where you'll see exactly what it sounds like, temporary winter shelters that operate usually from October to, it could be March, in some cases April, depending on community. And so happy to share that Nanaimo does have temporary winter shelters. We've got some are operational already. I'm happy to share with Mayor and Council in our upcoming report back additional details about the number of beds and frequency and that type of thing as well.
Okay, so you're not able to confirm like numbers or locations at this point in the public meeting?
I don't have the numbers for the emergency shelter beds off the top of my head, but I'm happy to send notes in to city staff to provide a more fulsome update.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions. Ms. Fox.
I'm sorry, if I could just if I could respond to the piece about other housing options. I just want to acknowledge that BC Housing and the city are continuing the conversations about Travelers, which is 1298 Nelson, now called Sparrow. And so those conversations continue to hopefully bring 78 units to Nanaimo. And those have been identified for persons who are seeking wellness path. And so that is reduced exposure to alcohol and substances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciate that. Not seeing any further questions. Appreciate your attendance tonight. Very kind.
Thank you.
Committee minutes are just for receipt. Item 10, can I have a motion for adoption of the consent items? Moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We're on to delegations unrelated to agenda items. And the first is Veronica Carroll, Chief Executive Officer, Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island, Home Away from Home in Nanaimo Build. Good evening, Ms. Carroll. I think you brought the chair with you.
Yes, I did. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My colleague Paul Murray is our board chair. So a little bit about us. We're going to tee up the PowerPoint. There we are. Okay, and I'm gonna cue. So tonight what we want to talk about is a little bit about us, a little bit specifically about our experience building and operating our homes away from home. Janice Place in Victoria, Kolayu House in Campbell River, and soon to be Jesse's house right here in Nanaimo. We want to share with you a video telling you about Sherry Shanahan and her daughter Jessie. And then Paul is going to finish up and talk a bit about how we're raising dollars in community over the next 16 months as we finish the completion and we get set to open the doors on Jesse's house. Okay, so a little bit about us. Our mission, we invest in the health of island kids, and we have been doing that for a very long time. 1926 was the first patient that was welcomed into the home that was built in Mill Bay. We are 100% donor dollar funded, and we receive no government support. Our history is varied, but what I would tell you is that we have gone over the decades, we've made many changes to the work that we do, and we've been extremely responsive to the healthcare needs of island families and their children. So a little bit about Janice Place. It was built in 2012. It is a 10-bedroom facility with private baths, a shared kitchen. 172 families stayed last year for a total of 2,469 nights total. The longest stay was 12 nights, and there is a bit of a mistake in the next little data point. One family returned 3 times and stayed for a total of 252 nights, but our longest stay was 12 nights last year. Kolayu House in Campbell River. It opened in 2021. It once, as well as a 10-bedroom facility with private baths, large shared kitchen, living room, quiet rooms, and other shared spaces. Last year we had 102 families stay for a total of 1,148 nights. Longest stay was 52 nights, and the average stay was 7. Where to next? So this was the case that was put before us in determining why are we wanting to build this house in Nanaimo. What I can tell you about all of these datas, and for everybody who loves numbers, there are a lot of people who are traveling to NRGH to seek care for their kids. You can see that there are hundreds of families every year that are going to be seeking clinical support at the hospital for one reason or another. And all of those families are from out of region. And so they are all looking for a place to stay close to their children who are at the hospital.
I'm so grateful to the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island. I'm very grateful to Janice Place. It really changed our lives, being able to stay there. So 2012, end of the year, got pregnant with our second child. And then at 29 weeks, I just knew something was wrong. So I really advocated to get an ultrasound done. And then the lady was like perplexed. And being a nurse, I knew something wasn't going right. And they said, we're gonna have to deliver her today. So Jessie was born by C-section late in the night, and they needed to take Jessie directly to the NICU at Victoria General. It was such a whirlwind because I had medication, I was disorientated, and this lovely nurse came in and she was like, oh, so where are you gonna stay? Because we're gonna discharge you. And I was like, what do you mean, where am I gonna stay? My kid's in the hospital. Never really thought about what that would look like if you were to be in a different city and not have somewhere to stay. She was like, I'll connect you with the social worker. The social worker came to the room and she's like, oh, I got you a bed at Janice Place. And she walked us over to the house when we got there. it was beautiful. And then she took us on a tour, showed us the great room, showed us where the kitchen was. I didn't know that we had something like that on Vancouver Island. And we were like, how much is it gonna cost? Because we were so worried about finances. And she was like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out, but don't worry about it. She's like, go take care of your daughter. Don't think about the rest of it. You got a place to stay. We'll keep you here as long as you need to be here. And like, that was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, because really we had no idea what we were gonna do. It was such a relief. You could come back. You had food there. We were able to get groceries from just down the street. You had your own shelf in the fridge. So yeah, it was like a whole family, just that you acquired just because you all had a common interest. At the time, I didn't realize how much it was going to impact me.
So, Mr. Ryan,
I've been a little remiss in terms of time, so I know you're going to wrap up quickly.
I will. Apologies for that. Just very briefly, 14,000 square foot building. We are so proud and happy to be after 10 years work. Shovels in the ground 2 weeks ago. It's a $10 million build. 16 families can stay there at one time, each with their own bathroom, shared kitchens. The key, as the mayor spoke to a couple of weeks ago, keeping family together in that really tough time, and having them close is really the key. And you can see that with Sherry. We're so inspired by her. $10 million project. We are $7 million fundraised into it, in big part thanks to Don Hubbard and Dave Hammond. We're standing on their shoulders to date. We've got $3 million to go over the next 16 weeks. And so we're here to raise awareness and to ask you to be a part of that if you can be in any way, and to support us through this journey. And then that thing will become a reality in just a very few short months at Nanaimo Hospital. Thank you for your indulgence. I know we're a little bit over time. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I may, very briefly, I don't have a question because I'm well aware of this project, and it's so worthwhile and a great piece of our hospital area. You mentioned, Paul, the fundraising that's required, $10 million, and congratulations on already being at 7, thanks to some extremely generous benefactors. And if there's one thing I've learned from my time on council, that there are many needs in our city, but there are also an amazing number of very, very generous donators and contributors to good causes. So I wish you well, and I'm sure you will be successful, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next delegation is Jackie Boland, rebanning single-use plastic water bottles under 1 liter in size in Nanaimo. Good evening.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I'd love to get my PowerPoint up if possible.
And 5 minutes, and I might be harsher with you than the previous one, but
That's fine. It actually is under 5 minutes. I've done it a few times. So my proposal
Please.
is to ban plastic water bottles 1 liter and under. So on Earth Day 2026, Tofino will become the first. On Earth Day 2026, Tofino will become the first place in Canada to ban water bottles 1 liter and under. I was inspired by them to present this idea to Nanaimo as well. So this was brought forward in Tofino by a group called Surf Riders. I don't represent Surf Riders, but we've been in touch, and I have their support, and they're also willing to offer any support to the city of Nanaimo in terms of educational materials or educating businesses, water dispensing stations, whatever is required. So why not make Nanaimo the second place in Canada for this to happen? So I know Nanaimo and Tofino are both quite small places, but just imagine what if it starts with Tofino, a very small place, Nanaimo, a medium-sized city, maybe Victoria, maybe Vancouver, maybe Toronto, maybe it spreads across Canada, and that actually does make a big, big difference. So why is this important? So we are in a time of climate emergency. I'm not sure anyone in this room would disagree with that. And reducing plastic waste is important in all forms. The second reason is that production and disposal of plastic, such as those smaller water bottles, releases greenhouse gases. Recycling is one part of the solution, but it still uses resources, and obviously not every single plastic water bottle gets recycled. The Surfriders Tofino, they find tens of thousands of water bottles of the smaller sizes in their shoreline cleanups. And microplastics are a threat to ecosystems and human health. So the plastic that is in those smaller water bottles, it breaks down the second you open up that water bottle. If you crush it or even hold it like this in your hand, it releases microplastics, which you're ingesting into your body. When the water bottles get into the ocean or lakes, the sun breaks down those water bottles, and the animals in the ecosystem, it's becoming a part of that ecosystem. And the biggest reason why is that alternatives exist. I'm sure everybody in this room has at least one water bottle. I see lots of people around with them. So what about logistics, enforcement, emergencies, etc.? So after I submitted this proposal, someone from the engineering department at the City of Nanaimo contacted me, basically saying that his department will not support this proposal. I asked him why, and these were his reasons, and honestly, none of them really held, or it was hard to understand actually why he was so opposed to this. So his first thing he said was, what about water shortages? So I haven't lived in Nanaimo that long, but I looked on Google, and as far as I could tell, there was not one case where drinking water was restricted in Nanaimo. We've always had tap water to drink for the past whatever history that I could find. What about emergencies? Tofino allows for water bottles in case of like fires, water shortages, etc. So Nanaimo could adopt the same exceptions for emergencies. What about where to fill up? I don't think I bought a single water bottle in the past, say, 25 years. I've never struggled to find a place to fill it up. Work, home, all public facilities, libraries, schools, etc. You can have so many places to fill up. What about enforcement? We have bylaw officers already in the City of Nanaimo, and I think after public education to businesses, they will just simply stop ordering these products. So I don't actually see enforcement being a huge issue.
And 1 minute.
Sure. And what about businesses doing it on their own? So the person I talked to suggested that maybe businesses could just do this, just stop ordering these products. However, if this was the case, I think we'd still see plastic bags in stores. We don't because it's a law. What about time needed to adjust? Tofino is implementing this on Earth Day, April 2026, so giving businesses time to sell their existing product. What about the burden on existing water treatment facilities? I don't see this as a huge issue. I don't think there's many people that exclusively drink water out of the smaller water bottles. It could be an extra, say, 1 or 2 or 3% capacity that is required. And what about writing the legislation? Well, the good news is Tofino has already done it. It exists already, so I recommend that Nanaimo implement this policy from Tofino in Nanaimo. Thanks for considering this important issue.
Thank you. Please. I was going to say impeccable timing here. I have some questions through council. Councillor Gesselbrock, then Perino, then Manley.
Thanks, Mayor, through you. I think there's a report out a while ago about them doing autopsies on people and like a teaspoon of microplastics in people's brains. And I do know that the highest source of microplastics is from those little water bottles, which is quite creepy. I'm just curious, you mentioned Tofino passed this bylaw and they're going to enact it in 2026. Are you aware of any other Canadian municipality that have like started to consider it, or in the States at all?
Not that I've heard of, and I've been in touch with Surfriders who was behind this in Tofino, and they didn't mention any other places. It's just a very new thing, so really, really new.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you. Thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. I know the bottles that you're talking about, those are the ones that actually do, in fact, squeeze really easily, right? So are those the only size that you're concerned about at this point, or because I know there are various sizes of water bottles that people can buy?
Tofino's law does 1 liter and under. So they still allow the bigger water bottles for, you know, whatever. If someone needs to drink tap or drink bottled water for whatever reason, emergencies are still available. So there are exceptions. I honestly just wish that all of them were banned.
Yeah.
So I think Tofino doesn't go quite far enough, but I know it's a bit of a radical thing, so I didn't want to
It's a great
ban
start.
all water bottles. But in my heart, that's actually what I want.
Okay,
But
that's
I
good.
understand that it's balance, I guess.
Well, it's a great start, and thank you for the work that you're doing on this. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manley, and then Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you for your presentation. I would note that a lot of water in water bottles comes from municipal sources, so the worries about filtration, et cetera, it's not really what people think it is. It's not spring water, it's a lot of city water. Did you know that the city of Nanaimo in 2011 declared access to water a human right and banned the sale of water bottles in city-owned facilities and ensured that all city facilities had refilling stations?
I actually did see that in my research. So Nanaimo's already taken the first step to have, you know, accessible water in all locations. So, so I think that's a step, one small step, but I think we could go a lot further with it.
I would say it was contentious at the time, but I think everybody's gotten used to it now.
Times have changed, I think, 2011 to 2025. I think in
People
terms of the
are-
climate emergency, I think we're a lot further down the path.
Yeah, I think people are used to it in our city facilities now, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate your attendance here tonight. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was going to say, I think Councillor Armstrong wants to say something first.
Your Worship,
Oh, perfect.
and Your Worship, the delegation can have a seat if there's no further
Yes,
questions.
sorry, thank you. All right, well, I'm glad the Jay's now, Councillor Perino, business arising from the delegation.
Yes, thank you so much, Your Worship. I actually had spoken to staff earlier today, so they did help me. I would like to put a motion on the floor regarding the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island. And that motion is that council directs staff to provide a report at the next Finance and Audit meeting on funding options to support the Home Away from Home project. And if I get a seconder, I'll speak to it, please.
Is there a seconder? Second, Councillor Gesselbrock, please.
Thank you. I just, the presentation that we heard tonight was actually quite minimal. I could have listened to them for another hour. But I actually have some experience with this. I used to be the CEO of the Nanaimo District Hospital Foundation. And when we'd have babies that were sick and families had to come from out of town, we paid for their stays at hotels, you know, the transportation, the food. And it got to the point where it was so costly we could barely do it. This project will mean that families can come and stay while their babies are sick and getting well. And even when they don't get well, they need to stay with their babies. This is so important. And I know that there are things that we can do at the city level to help with the funding issues. But it's up to this city of Nanaimo, the residents here, and throughout this region to support this project. It is so important. So that's why I want this to come to our Finance and Audit, because we have some options that we can consider. But I hope everyone in this region realizes that every parent needs to stay with their infant when they're so ill. And it's just something that we can have a tremendous influence by having Jesse's house built as soon as possible. So I know the shovel's in the ground. Go quickly. And I do hope this receives the support and gets passed.
Thank you very much. Please, we're gonna, it's gonna be a long evening, my friends, a long evening with a number of delegations. I'm not seeing any other speakers. Motions on the floor. All those in favor? Send this to staff. Sorry, for a report. Motions on the...
Sorry, I got a question.
Sorry. Councillor well, we'll let Councillor Brown, he was there first according to the electronic device in front of me.
I think I'm looking for a little more clarity, because in the preamble there, you said we have a lot of options, and I just would like to know what you're thinking before I direct staff or vote in favor of directing staff to do some work.
Councillor Perino.
Well, certainly we give enough grants out in the city that a grant is certainly one of the easiest ways. But we also have some other options, and I'll ask Mr. Lindsay to maybe pop in here. There are certainly issues around some of the DCCs. There are different things that we can do, some permitting things, but definitely in the way of grants, and that's why I wanted it to come forward, but only in a report for our staff to be able to give us different options, because we can't help, obviously, in a large way, but we can, I think, do some things, and this is a very important project.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, sufficient to answer? Mr. Lindsay?
Your Worship, I was just going to mention that certainly when we report back, we'll include on there what the projected building permit fees and development cost charges are for a project of this nature. I wouldn't recommend that council replace those fees, but we'll certainly bring back grant options. The options, to be honest, about where would be where council would fund it from, which source you would identify for funding, and that's what we'll work with finance to bring those options back to you.
Thank you. All right, all we're doing is exploring here. Now, in order, Councillors Gesselbrock, Thorpe, Eastmere, and Hemmons.
Thanks, Mayor. You know, obviously, I think this is a really important project. I wasn't quite sure. I thought maybe this was going to be a motion to ban water bottles here right off the floor. Yeah, just the funding options, there's a bit more clarity from staff. Like, I didn't see a request from the delegation on this. So, like, scale of funding too, is that something that we'd be asking staff? Like, how much, you know, like, do we have an idea of scale of request or? Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thanks, Your Worship. I don't want to prolong this. Obviously, I totally support this project, but I am a bit taken aback by this motion, and I guess I'm, to be honest, not sure that it's necessary. The organization has made it clear that they have proceeded to this point without any government assistance, and they're busy fundraising. If they feel that the city could assist them in some way through waiving of charges or through a grant situation, then of course they can apply and make that request. And personally, I would support it. I'm just not sure that this motion is necessary, that we spend staff time looking at options. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere, then Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. Similarly to Councillor Thorpe, I didn't hear any type of request during the delegation for monetary support from the city. And just with regards to our process around this table, motions on the fly, we generally do not do those out of respect for our colleagues. And even when we bring these motions forward, in the past, it's always been brought up under other business, and it's a notice of motion, and then it gets debated at the next council meeting. So I'm really a little bit taken aback by just the way that the timing of this. And so yeah, given the fact that there wasn't a direct request from the delegation, and that we, as a matter of proper process, we try not to do motions on the fly, I think this would be more appropriate at the end of the meeting under other business as a notice of motion, and then potentially we can be prepared to debate that at the next council meeting.
Ms. Gurry.
Your Worship, you might be about to say what I'm going to say, but just business arising from delegations, I have let Councillor Eastmere know when she had it. It can come either after the delegations or under other business. Either is acceptable. Motions can be made at any time during a meeting by any member of council. Your notice of motion policy is usually to provide notices of motion to then be discussed under other business at your next council meeting. Though motions made at the table can be made at any time. So I think you usually refer to them as motions on the fly, but it is within council's purview to make a motion at any time. Any member of council can do that.
Yeah, and I've understood that, but just the way that we have been doing it up to this point, that's why it kind of sticks out as being coming at a weird time, especially because we had another delegation since. So for that reason, I really would support this as a notice of motion and then have a chance to debate in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, noting some process issues that I think Councillor Eastmere has outlined very well. I think this would be more appropriate as a notice, and I wonder if Councillor Perino would consider allowing everyone that time to consider this. That said, I have had friends who benefited tremendously from having the opportunity to stay at Janice's Place in Victoria, and I know that resources like this in the community are desperately needed. So appreciate the intent, but I just think our process is a little off here. Thank you.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship. Process aside, I'm really supportive of this project. I was at the groundbreaking, and I think that I would prefer just to invite the proponents to have a conversation with staff to discuss what might be possible in terms of what grants we have, what opportunities there are. But I'm prepared to support this. I think it'll be a fairly quick and simple report. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I too agree that I think it's a different process than what we're used to seeing, but I am struggling with this for the simple fact that we have a lot of huge expenses coming up, and we've got and budget is coming up, and I think our finance department is going to be really busy. So I just don't know if I can support it at this time, especially when there wasn't an ask. Thank you.
Oh, I'd like to finish. You go ahead.
Just let me. This is out of process. But the problem, there were a couple of problems. Unfortunately, the delegation got cut off a little early because they did go long. They were going to ask for some funding support. So that was missed in their presentation, which was unfortunate, and I knew that in advance. The other thing, too, is that a notice of motion is to come back to the council table, not to the finance and audit table, which is different. So that's why I went this direction instead of a notice of motion at the end, and only to ask for a report. And depending on what the report comes back, we may or may not agree to do anything. But I wanted to hear what options might be. It's just unfortunate that the delegation was not able to formally ask for support, and that we did miss out on. So I thought I'm going to take the opportunity no matter what because it's important enough. But I do agree, it's out of process.
Councillor Eastmere, another time?
Just if you knew that there was more, then we had an opportunity to ask them questions, and we didn't know to ask them that. So I wish, Councillor Perino, you would have asked them a question to give them a chance to maybe highlight that there was a financial ask there. So a motion. I'm going to make a motion to defer this to our next meeting.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Kesselbrock, Thorpe, and Manley, and Hemmens. Thank you very much. And those opposed, most vehemently opposed, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Perino, and Councillor Brown. Thank you. This is deferred to the next meeting. We're on to administrative reports. Downtown Nanaimo Business Association Business Improvement Area Bylaw. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So at the October 6th council meeting, council approved the motion for staff to work with the Downtown Business Association to renew their business improvement area for another 5 years as a council initiative. So staff have worked with the DNBA to draft the bylaw that is on the agenda tonight. So the bylaw is for a 5-year term from 2026 to 2030. The levy collected in the first year is $160,000, and this levy will be increased by 1.01% per year for the term of the bylaw. The next steps would be a petition against package will be sent to all business class properties within the BIA area. So if you don't want the levy, you must complete and submit a petition against form. And to be successful, the petition must be properly signed by less than the majority of owners representing at least 1/2 of the value of the parcels, which is land and improvements, and they which are liable to be specifically charged within that area. So the due date for responses will be December 5th, and staff would report back on December 15th to council with the results of the petition. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Gurry? Or, pardon me, Ms. Mercer? Councillor Manley? Care to read the recommended motion?
I do care. I'd move that Downtown Nanaimo Business Association Business Improvement Area Bylaw 2025, number 7395, a bylaw to establish a business improvement area in the downtown Nanaimo area, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Councillor Manley?
I move that the bylaw number 2025, number 7395, pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries.
And I move that bylaw 2025, number 7395, pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
And that council direct staff to proceed with notice of intention to conduct a local area service on a council initiative subject to a petition against process, and council direct staff to carry out the petition against process.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is the Home Energy Retrofit Financing Program, Local Area Service Bylaws for additional participating properties. Mr. Home, please. Good evening.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening to you and council. I'll be brief on this, as council is quite familiar with this program and process. This is to support the expansion of the city's home energy retrofit financing program to add an additional 4 properties to a local service area that will allow them to borrow up to $15,000 interest-free loan, so that's repayable for home energy retrofit upgrades. And happy to say again, this is for 4 properties, not 23 properties, as council considered in July of this year. So I'm happy to take any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Perino, and then Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you to Mr. Holmes. If we get more properties in the coming months?
Thank you. Through Your Worship to Councillor Perino, there's, I believe this commits 405,000 out of 500,000 total possible in the program. So there is some room for additional, but this is substantially committing the program. The funding available through the FCM grant. As properties repay, there will be additional room in the program to look at adding additional properties. But this is the first intake. This is the final round in the first intake, and then we'll have to assess from there and determine where we go from there. Thanks.
So when will we have an answer about where we go, how we can add more on or do more?
Well, I think we're just we'll work through this first
set,
the full set, and then figure out where we're at. I know there's it does take a lot of work from finance staff as well, and then the loans are repayable over 10 years, so it'll be some time before we start seeing revenue back in to top up the program. So there's it's fairly well subscribed at this point.
Yes. Okay. And so if people are interested, get in touch with you and stay tuned to what's coming. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. I had a similar line of questions. This is from a one-time grant through FCM or EBCM, and people will need to pay back what they've been lent before we can continue the granting process. Again, that's correct.
Yeah. Through Your Worship, yeah, that's correct. It was seed funding, one-time grant from FCM, and then the program will regenerate through repayment is the intent. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing other questions for staff. Councillor Manley, the first one is 2305 Panorama View Drive, please.
I move that home energy retrofit financing for 2305 Panorama View Drive, local area service establishment bylaw 2025, number 7416, a bylaw to provide financing for participation in the City of Nanaimo Home Energy Retrofit Finance Program, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. The next is 843 Athena Place. Councillor Manley.
I move that home energy retrofit financing 843 Athena Place, local area service establishment bylaw 2025, number 7420, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
And I move that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. And the next is 2548 Cosgrove Crescent. Councillor Manley.
I move that the home energy retrofit financing for 2548 Cosgrove Crescent, local area service establishment bylaw 2025, number 7432, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. And finally, 6160 Dover Road. Councillor Manley, please.
I'm just thankful there's not 23 of them tonight. I move that home energy retrofit financing for 6160 Dover Road, local area service establishment bylaw 2025, number 7433, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I move that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We're on to item 13, development reports. Development variance permits number DVP 486-5160 Universal Place.
Your Worship, before we move on to these development reports, I know we have quite a full auditorium, and there was some very happy presentations at the start of the meeting this evening, which you allowed clapping for. But just moving forward, you do note at the start of the meeting about how there's no cheering or jeering, and that's just to make people feel comfortable at the podium when they're wishing to speak. Some people might not be on the same side of an issue. So just with the way the meeting's been carrying on with the clapping, so it's fair for all, if we could just, if you could just remind folks not to do that, that would be great going forward.
I was going to say, I think you've just seen the demonstration. Bad cop over there, good cop over here, but I've got to be the bad cop too. It's going to be a long evening if we interrupt the proceedings with clapping when not appropriate at any time during the meeting. So please, I'd ask you to restrain yourselves. Is there a request that council hear anyone wishing to speak to development variance permit application number DVP 486-5160 Universal Place? Anyone wish to speak to that one? And again, that's for 5160 Universal Place. If you could identify yourself for the record, please, sir.
My name is Rob Smith. I'm the owner of 5160 Universal Place. Here to answer any questions.
You're off easy, sir.
Okay.
No one's asking questions.
All right. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Someone care to make the recommended motion? Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is rezoning application number RA 496-3469 Uplands Drive. There is a recommended motion. Councillor Manley.
Okay. Recommended zoning amendment bylaw 2025, number 4500.245 to rezone 3469 Upland Drive from steep slope residential R10 to medium density residential R8 with a site-specific floor area ratio past first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2025, number 4500.245 pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I was going to say something about it, but I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2025 4500.245 pass third reading, and that council direct staff to secure the conditions related to zoning amendment bylaw 2025 number 4500.245 as outlined in the conditions of rezoning section of the staff report entitled rezoning application number RA 496 for 3469 Uplands Drive, dated 2025 October 20, prior to final adoption.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We're now on to rezoning application number RA 512-2367 Arbit Road, which has brought many of you out here tonight. Just let me say at the start, with the provincial rule changes, we don't have a staff presentation to precede this item. We do have a number of delegations tonight, 9 in fact. You'll be entitled to up to 5 minutes each. And at 1 minute, I will let you know you have a minute left. I'm going to try and stick to that. Otherwise, we'll be here for a very long evening, and some of you may decide not to speak, in fact, when you wanted an opportunity to do so. So let us begin. The first delegation is Rachel Sansom, Land Development Consultant, Grayland Consulting Ltd. When you approach the mic, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself for the record, each of you who do speak. Welcome, Ms. Sampson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Council, for seeing us this evening. My name is Rachel Sansom. I'm a land development consultant and representing the owner of 2367 Arbit Road. So this is just a brief presentation to show you the changes that we've made from our original application that we made a year ago, and the changes that we've made to that in light of the neighborhood comments. So our location, as you know, is on the north shores of Westwood Lake, primarily a residential neighborhood. As you can see, we have a modular home park 2 doors to the east, and well, several modular home parks two doors to the east, as well as some semi-rural properties in the neighborhood. So we're rezoning to allow 2- and 3-story townhomes, and in accordance with the Nanaimo City Plan. So here's a slide that shows our 2 proposals. The one on the left is the one we started with. So these were all 3-story units. We were required to provide future road dedication to run east-west in case those neighbors wish to continue the road and develop themselves. So from what we heard from the neighbors, they weren't keen on the height at 3 stories, so we reduced some of the heights to 2 stories. So essentially you'd have a 3-story unit in the middle shouldered by 2 lower 2-story units. We reduced the unit count from approximately 45 to approximately 38. And we did, in consultation with staff, we found out we didn't have to provide this road dedication in the middle of the site. And what that allowed us to do was to pull the whole thing up away from the lake even further. So that was really helpful to gain that land back and then provide that land at the lakefront instead. We've also provided a trail to the lake. This will be protected by a statutory right-of-way on the property. It'll be 3 meters wide. It would be constructed by this development with a 4-foot-high fence between that, the trail and the development, so you can kind of see through both ways for a little bit of safety, and you're not going through a tunnel to get there. And on the west side of that trail, we could also provide solid board fencing for privacy for our neighbor to the west. We've also increased the side yard setbacks. You can see on the right-hand side of the right-hand layout, all that little right green lettering on that right-hand side is actually trees. There are neighbors' trees. He had concerns about protecting those and their root zones. So by moving these units over, we're able to protect the trees not only on his property, but there are several trees on our property now that can be retained on that eastern border. We've also committed to providing a fence along that area and supplemental plantings that could be required a development permit to provide more visual and audio privacy for that neighbor. So we've also increased the tree preservation in that area, sort of in orange at the bottom of the new plan. There's quite a few mature fir trees. Those will all be protected under this new scheme. We've also increased the setback to the lake and provided park dedication at the lakefront. So we will be doing restoration at that lakefront. In fact, staff have requested that we do that restoration prior to adoption, should this bylaw go forward, and then do supplemental plantings in and around those existing firs for more visual and audio buffers from the lake. So here's a few before and after shots of what we started with and what we've kind of arrived at. You can see on the upper left corner, these are kind of standard townhouse 3-story format. And you can see on the brown colored townhomes that we're proposing now, you can kind of see how the shouldering of the 2-story units gives them more of a residential house look. And we've also oriented the main road through the middle of the site to sort of break up the massing from the streetscape. These all have pedestrian access to the street, as well as generous landscaping to give it a really nice street frontage. Next slide. And again, the view from the lake with the buffering and the restoration area as opposed to what we started with. Next slide. This is a few images of the restoration, either at the lakefront in Area 1 or within the strata area in Area 2. Again, that would be done as a condition of development permit. We did not have to trigger a traffic study with these number of units. We're not asking for any parking variances. All the services have been confirmed by our engineers, building to step code, and we will be dark sky friendly. And we welcome your questions and comments. Thank you so much for having us this evening.
Thank you very much. Questions for the delegation? In order, Councillors Armstrong, Thorpe, and Perino, please.
Thank you. My understanding is there's a lot of migratory birds on that property. Has that been confirmed by any of your experts?
Yes, we did, through the chair, we did have our biologists do a nesting cavity survey, and they haven't found any. Again, we're not planning to remove any of the trees on site, so we won't be interrupting any nesting activities.
Thank you. Follow-up, if I may? And as to traffic, that's always one of my concerns when you're adding that many more vehicles onto a small, narrow road. Are you doing anything for road improvements onto Arbit Road?
My understanding through the chair again is that we would be required to do standard frontage improvements in front of the project, but we have not been asked to do further improvements at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Your worship, through you, if I may, to the delegation, Ms. Sansom, thank you very much. Just one question. I walked the property on the weekend, and I just wanted to make sure that I was seeing what I thought I was seeing. So there is the tennis bubble for the indoor tennis. Then below that, toward the lake, there is an outdoor tennis surface. And then beyond that is a wooded, grassy area bordering the lake. So looking at your plans and your map, am I correct in assuming that your development will not affect that wooded, grassy area from the bottom of the outdoor tennis court to the lake? Is that correct?
Yes, again, through the chair, we intend to preserve that area and enhance that with additional plantings. And it will be fenced and people will have to stay out of it.
Thank you. That's how I saw it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two questions, if I may. The first one is parking on or beside the units. Do they all have 1 or 2 spaces, and are they on the apron? Is that the idea, is to have them on the apron in front of the actual home?
Again, through the chair, yes, they will be in front of each home. I understand that Nanaimo bylaws are 2 per unit, as well as adequate visitor parking, and we're not currently asking for variances at this
Okay,
stage.
thank you. And just to get a sense, and I realize this is a difficult question, but I want to make sure that these plans would match the current homes in the area, and I'm just wondering if you have any idea of the price range of these townhouses.
Thank you again through the chair. We do not, as you're aware, markets are in flux now, as are construction costs. It'll be several years before these are actually realized. The landowners are looking for entitlements at this point and not planning to build immediately. So it's hard for us to say. Certainly they would have to meet market conditions and be saleable and have a decent price point. It is an easy site to develop, given that there's not a lot of blasting or excavating to do here. The cost to construct should be fairly reasonable.
Thank you. And if I may, the size of these homes approximately? Square footage?
I don't know that off the top of my head,
too
I'm
soon.
sorry.
Too soon. It's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it was really interesting to see the changes that you've made based on some of the consultation with the community. You said it was done in consultation. Like, what did you have one particular meeting where you took feedback from, or how did those changes come to be? Like, what was the actual process?
Thank you again through the chair. About a year ago, we held a public information meeting, and we held it at the school down the road, and it was very well attended. We had over 70 participants. We took many names and email addresses, and then we compiled those comments, took those back to staff, and then recrafted the proposal based on those comments. And then we have had correspondence with our immediate neighbor, even until recently, as far as his concerns about his property line and how this would affect them. So we did have a comprehensive list that we did provide to staff as a consultation summary.
Thank you. And with regards to the public path through the property to the lake, just to confirm, there isn't currently a public access point through that property?
Through the chair again, no, there is not. So we'd be providing one through a statutory right-of-way that would be there in perpetuity and would be constructed with these units at that time.
Thank you. And I heard you say that you're retaining all of the current trees on site?
That is the plan, to keep as many trees as we can that are in healthy condition.
Okay, that's different than retaining all the trees on site.
If I may clarify through the chair, the intent, if we go back to our current plan, there's an area in orange that is on site that will be, those trees will be retained. That area will be restored, and there's also trees along the eastern property line that will be retained as well that help provide screening. Those are the majority of the trees on the site, as I understand it.
Okay, appreciate the answers. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any further questions for the delegation. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you very much.
The next delegation is Lois Powell. If you could introduce yourself for the record in 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have a minute left. Good evening.
Lois Powell, Mayor and Council. Preserve Westwood Lake, no condos on the lake. That was the first time the residents had said no to the 2 4-story condos on the lake. Stopped. Preserve Westwood Lake, no townhouses on the lake. This was the second time the citizens said no in November to stop the rezoning R7 for 48 townhouses on the lake. Stopped. Now we have the rezoning application RA 512 for 2367 Arbot Road. City Planning received the application September 25th and wrote staff report for decision. Staff support the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Westwood Lake neighborhood is not recognized by the city because they refused to become an association, so there was no notification until the sign appeared in front of 2367 Arbot Road on October 9th, 14 days after the city received the application and days before the Thanksgiving weekend, leaving very little time to organize and get the information out to the people. This is not a good fit for Westwood Lake, widely regarded as the jewel of Nanaimo, a natural space enjoyed by residents, visitors for walking, biking, swimming, and connecting with nature. The 6-kilometer walk trail is integral for our city's identity and quality of life. This type of housing density will destroy the natural tranquility of the lake and change the neighborhood forever. If this is approved, this zoning application will set a dangerous precedent. There are at least 4 other private properties that could follow suit turning the natural perimeter of the lake into a wall of townhouses and possible condos. There will be no stopping the development on Westwood Lake if this application to rezone is approved by City Council. Provisions of the pathway of this 3-meter statutory right-of-way to the lake, condition of rezoning, where will the cars park that want to go on this access to the lake? Public access to the park is just over a block away. Unfortunate, there's limited parking down there. Some days there could be 40+ cars parked on Arbor Road. These are not Westwood Lake residents parking there. Report states conceptual planning, this is really funny, illustrates 10 townhouse buildings and approximately 30 dwelling units. Error. Conceptual design shows 12 townhouse buildings with approximately 38 dwelling units and 10 visitor parking sites. Apparently it does not matter what the report says. 30 units, 35 units, 38, it is all conceptual, proposed, and approximate. When does it become real and not conceptual? Parking at the dwelling units, conceptual, is for 2 cars, one in the garage and one behind. Most garages are used for storage, so where will the overflow park? On Arbor Road, where else? Increased traffic will be horrendous on Westwood Lake, Jingle Pot Road, Arbor Road, and Mill. Anyone accessing Jingle Pot or Westwood Lake Road between 8 and 9 on a school days can attest to the traffic. Grayland Consulting Limited sent in the application to rezone on behalf of Overhead Management Limited. Who is Overhead Management Limited? Or what is Overhead Management Limited? Who has this information, or is it important? I ask City Council, what could possibly be a good reason for any of you to approve this zoning bylaw amendment?
1 minute.
I still have a minute left. Do you have any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions for you.
Oh, okay. Obviously you agree with me, thank you.
Please, please. The next delegation is Darcy Ross. Ms. Ross, introduce yourself, please. 5 minutes.
Yep.
I'll let you know when there's a minute left. Thank you.
Right. Your Worship, City Councilors, City staff, and guests, my name is Darcy Ross. My father and I live at 2427 Ridgepoint Drive, right across from the Westwood Lake Trail head and the mountain bike entrance at the end of Arbor Road. I'm forever grateful to the stewardship of the Nanaimo people on whose land I live, love, and play, and every time I leave the island and I return, I'm struck at the beauty and the green space that greets me. Every time I drive down Arbor Road to my home, I'm appreciative of the calm and the natural surroundings that are there. I often walk the labyrinth across the road from me at Bethlehem Center, and with today's world in turmoil, I'm so appreciative that it's there for me and for others for spiritual refuge and renewal. It's the only one in town I'm aware of. The area around Westwood Lake is uber attractive and offers a natural beauty that offers night sky, observing, swimming, kayaking, dog walking, mountain biking, quiet, which is unusual and sought out in a growing city. However, I'm not aware of a long-term vision for the neighborhood right on Westwood Lake that honors those factors. I know that neighborhoods change and adapt over time. To me, a neighborhood plan is complete with city and neighborhood services, though, to ensure stability and sustainability. And they ensure a proactive long-term vision and a right mix of neighborhood representation, a tribute to our fragile environment and ecosystem, and a right mix of essential services, and a right mix of taxpayer opportunity. We in Nanaimo need a place where we can be compelled to get outside and enjoy our ecosystem close to home, and I believe our Westwood Lake neighborhood does that. It provides grounding and healing, the characters that people need to maintain their health. And introducing a townhouse complex on the lake, I believe, will deter from that. I want to live in a city that's successful. that's vibrant, that listens to its people, that takes care of its people, and that stewards the land and environment in a way that our ancestors did and benefits residents and visitors alike. I want to live in a city where family and friends can escape and renew. We love to see the cars and trucks parked across the road in front of our house with people going walking and hiking and racing and mountain biking and spending time outside with friends and families. It means they're not in front of their screens. I love that Nanaimo offers that opportunity. I am proud that our neighborhood is part of that. Oh, thank you for providing the 2 minutes and 38 seconds. The rezoning of the tennis court property on Arbit Road feels like a reaction to please an individual request. I am aware that the developer has addressed the city staff's concerns and the concerns that I was part of providing about that specific property, and I'm sensitive that some of my resistance and that of my father, whom I'm also representing, may be impacting one of my neighbor's retirements and is likely causing some distress. I'm also aware that there are people, like friends of mine, who would pay top dollar for a townhouse in that area. And right on the lake in that setting, that would be ideal. What I'm also aware of, though, is that a townhouse development right on Westwood Lake in a neighborhood that inspires quiet and refuge and renewal and forms of recreation inspired by nature seems reactionary. It seems misplaced, it seems disrespectful, it seems short-term, and it seems profit-hungry, quite honestly. I also speculate that adjacent landowners to the tennis club, who are also taxpayers, will succumb to various pressures, and our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to consider maintaining a natural, healthy space where people can go. If the rezoning request is approved, my request to council is whether the rezoning request should be approved, not whether it can be. And council has the authority to make that decision. 1 minute. In closing, my request to the stewards of all of our municipal tax dollars is to deny the first reading of the rezoning of 2367 Arbit Road at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the delegation? I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much. The next delegation is Sharon Kofed. Ms. Kofed, I think you know the drill.
Haven't been here for a while, though. Slightly nervous. Oh, I'll be fine. Okay, so just give me a second here. Check out my presentation. Okay, let's just see this. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight in opposition of the rezoning of the property located at 2367 Arbit Road from CC6 to R6 for following reasons. Westwood Lake is a natural park under the PR1 designation, which indicates it provides for the enjoyment of natural spaces within the city park. Parks are restorative and regenerative places for quiet contemplation. If the rezoning goes through, it will have a domino effect on the subsequent rezonings of the area, creating high-density units walling up the lake. Nature needs room to breathe in order to survive. It is our lungs. The sounds of bulldozers will reverberate at Westwood Lake for several years to come, and we as a community will not have our park. But more importantly, one city official, and I believe it was your worship, stated at the reopening of the latest improvements at Westwood that this is a world-class park. I support this sentiment, and Leonard and I never agree, but it can't be an iconic park if there is a plethora of buildings. Stanley Park in Vancouver is often touted as a world-class park, yet we don't see townhouses right on the lagoon despite the housing crisis there. And closer to home, Neck Point Park and Swana Lagoon were set to have multifamily units around them, but I am very happy to report the community spoke and said no. Doesn't Westwood Lake deserve the same consideration and treatment? It seems rather incongruent to sink money into the jewel of our asset only to destroy it by changing the character of the area forever for unaffordable homes. Lakefront properties are not affordable. If we continue down this road, then the other acreages will surely be pressured into densifying and we would lose that world-class dream. It would become nothing more than a two-bit park in a town lacking vision. One of the goals of the official community plan is to add to the park, and it is my understanding that there is a one-time generous offer of 3.4 acres of land, which will be dedicated to the Westwood Lake Park, contingent on the purchase of 2367 Arbit Road. It is an incredible gift for the city of Nanaimo that we surely cannot overlook. The value of this alone is far greater than any paltry community amenities being proffered up by the applicant for this rezoning. While I have been reassured that there has been due process has been followed, I believe that the citizens of Nanaimo should have been consulted on what their vision for the city of for this lake is before we even contemplate this rezoning. But due to the lack of media coverage or signs upon the lake, very few people know about this rezoning or understand the ramifications. And given the complexity of the constant changing provincial legislation, it is very difficult to find out and figure out what are the pertinent rules for this zoning, especially for a layperson like myself. Our official community plan states the density for the suburban neighborhood which this sits in is only 25 units per hectare. While I appreciate these are guidelines with some wiggle room, the density proposed here is over 50% of the target of the 25 units per hectare. Isn't this then against the OCP? And if it's against the OCP, then doesn't that open the doors to having both a public hearing and an OCP amendment? Because both the Local Government Act and Bill 44 reiterate that the community plans must be followed. Case in point, in November of 2024, the city of Surrey, in a rezoning comparable to this one, had both. Under the same guidelines, perhaps someone can enlighten me here. Is there some sort of exception to this particular development that I am unaware of or I have missed? This rezoning will put great pressure under our infrastructure, costing the city more.
1 minute.
Far more than it gets. Sewer water mains will have to be upgraded to accommodate. There have been several bursts of water mains in our area recently, and Westwood Lake has disappeared into a sinkhole. I ask council to be bold, to be brave, and to be visionary. There is no need for site-specific zoning to accommodate an out-of-town owner, consultant, and developer to give them substantial profits on the backs of local tax-paying citizens. Let's make Westwood Lake a world-class park. I'd like to leave you with something from Robert Redford. Some people have antiquated ideas. They want to close the parks and open up the land for development. It is an ongoing battle to keep parks strong. Let's keep Westwood Lake Park strong and deny this application. There are much better things that we can do here. I thank you for your time and consideration. I am open to questions, and I'm bang on.
Thank you very much. No, please. Are there any questions for Ms. Kofod? Sure. Not seeing any, but I do want to state something for the record that needs to be understood by everybody here tonight. I think it's fairly well known in the public sphere that a neighboring property owner has made a proposal to the city. I must tell you that from a legal perspective, this is a legal process, and it is irrelevant whether the rezoning for residential development is in the public interest on land use consideration. In other words, what I'm simply trying to say is what has been proposed is not relevant, nor can it be taken into consideration by council on this matter. The only relevant consideration is whether it's in the public, the development proposed is in the public interest, and we are not to take into account the proposal of the rejoining landowner. So when you mentioned the proposal that there's been an offer, I'm sorry, but for practical purposes, legal purposes, we can't take that into account.
I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't know, Your Worship, but I think it's in the public interest to consider it.
And I appreciate you may differ with that opinion, as we do on other things too, but I think the public here tonight needs to understand that. The next delegation is Paul Steele. And again, 5 minutes, sir, and if you'll introduce yourself, please.
My name is Paul Steele. I'm down on Benson View Boulevard, just below the lake. And thank you very much, Council and Mayor and Council, for looking at these delegations and listening to our concerns. Now, much of my thunder has been stolen by a few other speakers, but I will go through. Much has been said and discussed about this application with respect to the lack of suitability in respect to the overall character of the neighborhood, but what has been ignored or just glossed over is what the effect of the development will be on the surrounding community and the services provided to the surrounding community. Traffic on Westwood Lake Road, Jinglepot Road, etc., is escalating at a substantial rate. And this development will put another probably 190 vehicle trips per day on an area that is already oversaturated with vehicle trips. There's no public, there's nominal public bus transport into the area. There's about one bus every hour, every 90 minutes. And it appears to be against the OCP for developments of this size that require amenities such as 15-minute public bus access. Ms. Sampson has said that her engineers have said all the servicing is available for the area, but I've got a question. The 38 units will consume, given StatScan's figures, about 23,000 liters of water per day. The domestic wastewater generator will be approximately 21,000 liters per day, and the power consumed will be about 45, 46 kilowatt hours. I have a problem understanding, because we live in that area, and our water pressure is down, our water quality is down in the last 15 years. That the servicing of that area, we have enough water lines, we have enough sewer lines, et cetera, and enough power to service that area. Additionally, the stormwater coming on, or the rainwater coming off in the stormwater system, where is that going? And are you going to build stormwater retention ponds? A 1 millimeter rain event is calculated to generate up to almost 14,000 liters of runoff water. Now, I know these are dry figures and facts, but they have to be taken into account. Where will the runoff and the rooftop water go? Are they proposing to either dump it into the lake or build retainment ponds, treat and pump into the sanitary sewer? Where will this runoff water end? Westwood, Cathars, or Westwood? If it does, will the effect be similar to Cathars and Divers Lake, where we have algal blooms causing fish die-off, swimmer's itch, parasite, low DO levels, and increased nitrogen levels? Well, this is by no means a comprehensive look at the services requirement. Who is going to pay for the upgrade of the necessary services, power, water, sewer, when we already have burst water mains, collapsed culverts, and sinkholes? There's also a stated and not unreasonable concern that the adjacent properties will come under increased pressure. If the adjacent acreages are developed to the same density, then we're looking at an additional 200 units, maybe 250 units on that wall of Westwood Lake. Is it the intention of council to rezone these additional 17 acres of developable land in a similar fashion? And to address another concern about the concept plans, once a concrete set of plans is submitted by the proponent, will the city commit to consult with the entirely affected parties and just direct those, or just those directly adjacent to the properties? We all are affected in this. It's not NIMBYism, but a genuine concern that may alarm us as not only the effects of the proposal, but also the speed and opacity with which the rezoning is being moved through the process. For the city to suggest that we're merely responding to an edict from the provincial government is misleading. Apologies, Your Honor. Municipalities of Burnaby, West Vancouver, and Surrey have put the needs and desires of their citizenry ahead of provincial demands. In the strongest terms, I would encourage council to deny this application for rezoning as currently filed. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the delegation? Not seeing any, thank you. The next is Donia Sutherland Baker, Executive Director, Bethlehem Center Society. Ms. Baker, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me some time this evening to speak to you. I'm Danya, the Executive Director, on behalf of the Board of Directors of Bethlehem Center Society. You know, Bethlehem, of course, is located on the beautiful shores of Westwood Lake and is immediately adjacent to the proposed development at 2367 Arbor Road. For nearly 40 years, Bethlehem Center has been a charitable organization serving Nanaimo and beyond as a place of peace, connection, disconnection, and renewal. Each year, we welcome over 3,000 people from across BC, Canada, and globally. We not just welcome them for retreats, but it's a place of community building, a place of healing. We have 3 charitable pillars, and it's maybe not known to most, but we, of course, have the pillar of spirituality without borders. We also focus on leadership development. And third, we provide educational spaces for people with varying abilities. So we really are a service to the community. You know, the city, it's been mentioned tonight, has said a number of times that Westwood Lake really is one of Nanaimo's gems, and we really couldn't agree more. Bethlehem, we say that it's one of the best kept secrets of our city because many don't know what we're there to do. And we're finally, after all these years, in a place of really being able to make our impact known and to expand our value out beyond the borders of Nanaimo. The center contributes significantly to the social and economic well-being of the city. As I mentioned, with 3,000 visitors every year, people stay at local accommodations and eat at restaurants and shop around town before and after their experiences at Bethlehem on Westwood. So, you know, we provide accessible meeting spaces for organizations like Vancouver Island Health Authority, the City of Nanaimo, the school district, but we also support and make it a lot more accessible for our local charities to have a place to do their business as well. So organizations like the Haven Society, the Island Crisis Care Society, the Nanaimo Brain Injury Society, just to name a few. We welcome every year conferences, both national and international. So I happened to be away during the consultation where the developer had the opportunity for people to ask questions and have input. So I just want to take some time, and I'll skip a couple of our concerns that have already been voiced this evening for time. But I just want to make sure that the council and mayor are aware of where we sit. We fully appreciate the city's commitment to creating diverse housing. You know, we respect that vision for balanced growth. However, the proposed zoning is directly borders our property. And it's really one of the few remaining interspiritual centers in Canada that survived post-pandemic. You know, we're a charity that depends on sacred spaces for quiet and contemplation, and it would be a terrible shame to lose that. So to both protect the housing goals and community well-being, we asked the council to consider the following concerns and remedies. So one, of course, is if it were to move forward, there would have to be great consideration given to the increased activity of 38 units. We've heard that this evening, but I just want to bring it home for you. So when it's time to eat, we ring a bell, and it echoes way across the lake, even if you're on the other side. The construction, years of construction would devastate our charitable mission. And most importantly, the long-term impacts. Without careful planning, the loss of the natural buffering, the increased density would permanently alter the tranquil spaces. So we request that if this were to be considered, that a thorough undertaking of the community impact on our charity would be reviewed, you know, to support both a sustainable and forward plan. The world needs places like Bethlehem Center more than ever, places of stillness, of peace, and compassion. I simply just want to acknowledge that I've lived in this community for 25 years. I was a baby fundraiser and have seen Mayor Krogh sit in rooms over and over again supporting local community. I know council has a community heart.
If you could wrap up, please. Your 5 minutes are up.
I just ask that you recognize the importance of housing, and it is truly important, but it not be at the cost of a charity that has served in this community for over 40 years. So we respectfully ask that council ensure that before approving, that they make these considerations.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Eastmere has a question.
Thank you. Through you, I just wanted to ask about the permitted current uses versus the uses if we were to rezone it. So under the current list of permitted uses, assembly hall, bingo hall, club or lodge, commercial school, cultural facility, daycare, golf course, museum, recreational facility, university, college, technical school, versus if it was rezoned duplex, multifamily, rooming house, or single residential. Do you truly think that the permitted current uses would be less disruptive? That list, like bingo hall, club, commercial school, would those be less disruptive than residential on that property?
It would depend specifically on what was being requested, of course. But we've been living beside a recreational facility for as long as I've been there and way beyond, and it hasn't been an issue at all.
Okay, appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had similar questions about whether the tennis court, and there's been different restaurants at that location, and just looking on Google Earth, I can see there's 18 cars parked in there on the whatever date Google Earth took this photo. Were any of the activities that were happening there disruptive to to your facility?
Yes. So at one point, there was a rental for the summer of one of the apartments there that had 3 children in it. And during that 4-week period, it was extremely disruptive to, in particular, about 75% of our business is silent. And so with just 3 children playing on the other side of the hedge, it made a big impact on the retreatants' experience. And so I can only imagine if we had 38 families, what that would do.
And how about the restaurant or the batting back and forth of tennis balls?
No, the grunts don't bother us at all.
Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Perino, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question. Thank you for your presentation. Did I hear you right? You have 3,000 visitors over the course of a year, and how do they get there?
You name it. So a lot of what we realized during the pandemic is the local community hadn't been using us. Up until about 3 years ago, we've really made sure to reach out to local community. So what we realized is that people were coming from away. The main transportation would be the ferry from the mainland, driving from Victoria, and flying for when they're out of province or country.
Okay, so predominantly driving. It was a comment from one of the other speakers, and I was just 3,000 visitors for the course of a year is a lot. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And right now we can accommodate parking for about 50 cars on our property. So it's only when we have weekend use that the road would be required.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next delegation is Marilyn Hand. Please, 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 please. Ms. Hand, I think you probably heard the drill by now. 5 minutes. I'll let you know when there's a minute left. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please. And if you want to pull the mic in towards you and speak into it directly, everyone can hear you then. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Marilyn Hand, and I have been asked to read a letter.
I suggest you come a little closer to the mic.
Originally written by Grace Karaman, a resident of the Westwood Lake area. She is unable to be here tonight. Her letter has been edited for brevity. The citizens and neighbors in the Westwood Lake area are extremely concerned about the application to rezone the Nanaimo Tennis Club property. The Victoria-based owners, developers, and consultants have ignored the objections of the neighborhood and other concerned stakeholders. Westwood Lake Park is a jewel of the city's crown, enjoyed by citywide residents and visitors each year. Get Involved Nanaimo states that over 800 people enjoy the main trail loop every day. Most important, the park is strongly supported by the city. We appreciate the most recent support being the safety upgrades to the southeast entrance of the park. Recent provincial legislation has in fact silenced local citizens and shifted community planning away from those who reside here and utilize the park and put it into the hands of a few vested interests outside the community, in government and the developers. The north end of Westwood Lake is a quiet and unique neighborhood with little traffic and a good community ambience. The Bethlehem Center, immediately adjacent to the proposed property development, is founded on the principles of quiet and peaceful contemplation. The increase in noise, traffic, and street parking imposed by this development will be a major disruption to the Bethlehem Center and the neighborhood fabric. The Westwood Lake neighbors recognize the need for densification but are looking for measured, responsible development that minimizes neighborhood and environmental impacts rather than maximizing profit. There is no guarantee that family-oriented housing, as it was originally described, will be the final result. What is actually built may look nothing like the conceptualized drawing on the city's website. Other solutions are available, such as the city acquiring the entire tennis club property and developing the space as part of the park. Covered tennis courts are nowhere else in the city. We understand the neighboring property might also be available to be incorporated into the park, a unique opportunity. The new rezoning process will not stop once the precedent has been set for 2367 Arbor Road. If a developer is allowed to build this high-density complex right at the shore of Westwood Lake, it is only a matter of time before other lakefront properties will suffer the same fate. On behalf of all of Nanaimo, we urge the mayor, city council, and the planning department to say no to this application. This is signed by Grace Karaman. I would also like to add my concern for the Bethlehem Center that will be basically put out of business by the noise of the construction next door. Will the subsequent property owner of that property also be allowed to develop condos? Then if you reject Dr. Winkler's offer of the property on the other side, will the next owner there also be allowed to build condos on that property as well? Is that your vision for the future of the area? It is certainly not the vision of the property owners in this area. We sincerely hope that you will look at the future of the whole lakefront area here and make what we feel is a better choice. As the city of Nanaimo grows, I am concerned that there will be future regret about letting Dr. Winkler's offers go. When would ever a better offer be made available to the city? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions. The next speaker is John Blackman. And Mr. Blackman, if you can introduce yourself for the record, 5 minutes, and when there's a minute left, I'll let you know.
Thank you, Your Worship and council members, for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. I will be speaking against the application of the developers to rezone the tennis club property. My wife and I have lived in the area for about 25 years, and we've come to love the area. We're down opposite the small parking lot at the end of Arbit Road. So we are familiar with the area and we're familiar with the tennis club. I realize that we're pressed for time this evening, and I'm going to stick to 2 points. The first point is that I wish to make is that the neighborhood, which we define as essentially from Mill Road to the east to Westwood Road at the west, and from Jinglepot Road to the lake, the residents of that area are overwhelmingly opposed to this. The developer did have an open house back in November of last year on a Wednesday evening, and I attended there when the city report on page 5 refers to it rather dryly as concerns were expressed, what it fails to mention is that that was a heated and impassioned meeting when every single speaker spoke against the proposal put forward by the developer. So just taking from the planning report on page 5, you would think that this was a moderated discussion, but it was the intensity of the feelings by the neighborhood were expressed to the developer. Now, when I say that the community is overwhelmingly opposed to it, I have a petition here that was taken in 2019 when the first application was made, and that was a higher density proposal in regard to the tennis club property than what is before the council now. 1,264 people signed at that time. In regard to the current proposal, a proposal that is lesser in density than the initial proposal. This petition was started in '24 and carried on into this year. And the paper petition and the online petition has garnered 1,409 signatures. So more than the proposal, the first proposal, even though this is a lesser density. And the last point I want to make is that what others have touched upon, there are 6 adjacent properties on Arbit Road. There's 2 to the east and rather 2 to the west and 3 to the east. Those properties amount to over 15 acres. We know that realtors have already contacted some of the owners of those properties trying to assemble them. If you do the simple math of the 2.85 acres of the tennis club property and the 38 homes that are going to be put on it, that gives you a home ratio or a home per acre or a dwelling per acre of 13. You apply that to the other 15 acres of property, you soon see that you're going to have a massive development on Westwood Lake. So just doing the simple math, and I'm aware of the time, there's 38 properties that are proposed on this property. The 15 acres, which would be subject to intense pressure to rezone, would allow 204 similar dwelling units. But in addition, across the street, right across the street from this proposed development, there is another 2.5 acre triangle, which is at the end of Mill Road and abuts Arbit Road. That's 2.5 acres. There's a duplex property and a single wide trailer on it now. That, using the same math, would allow 33 units. So
1 minute.
33 units on that 2.5 acre property. So given the math, we are looking realistically and not in any way hysterically overstating what the effect of this precedent will be, 275 units on Westwood Lake and on Arbit Road. And if you measure the length on Arbit Road when this all this development will take place, it will take place in approximately 300 meters. I have 20 seconds, and I'm going to wrap up. The community feels passionately about this. I'm unaware, apart from the developer's spokesperson, of any other person that will address this council and speak before it. If it means anything, if the community's input means anything, I urge you, please, to turn this down. Thank you.
Sorry, no, please.
Can I file?
Any questions for Mr. Blackman? Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to the delegation. Thank you, sir, for being here tonight. You mentioned several times, referenced the feeling of the community,
yes,
the neighborhood. But am I not correct, sir, that this area does not have a formal neighborhood association?
That is correct. That is formally correct, but our group, the informal group, Friends of Westwood Lake, in the early part of this year canvassed the whole area. So I knocked on doors in January, February, and March. I must have taken 100 signatures, just knocking on doors. 2 persons refused to sign the petition. The other 98 all did. So we define ourselves as that area that I described. Mill to the west, Westwood to the east, and the other borders being Jinglepot and Westwood Lake. If that is the area that's going to be affected by this development, it may not be formally incorporated, it may not be a recognized neighborhood, but how else then, what other area would we approach to find out what the community feeling was, but in the area most closely affected and most adjacent to the lake?
Thank you.
Thank you. And the last delegation is Jerry Hand.
Could I leave the petitions or?
Ms. Scurry, under the new rules,
What's that, Your Worship?
wishes to leave a petition.
Yes, he can leave it, yeah, thank you.
Provide it to Ms. Scurry, please. And Mr. Hand, if you will come down, introduce yourself, and you'll have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when there's a minute left, sir.
So, yes, my name is Jerry Hand, and I find that I've spent a fair bit of time here preparing a presentation to find out that it was commented earlier that it's irrelevant, unfortunately. The purpose of this was to support the comments that have been made on behalf of everybody else in the neighborhood with regard to this development. But it was to go into detail with the offer by Dr. Winkler. And the mayor has just pointed out that that can't be done. So there is an economic opportunity there that unless you look into it on your own, which I would encourage you to do, I don't really have anything else to say, so the meeting won't go long on my behalf. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Hand, to have cut you off, but we have to consider case law and the law in general with respect to this matter. Thank you very much. There are no further delegations. Ms. Gurry, I'm in your hands as to suggestion. I appreciate people are here anxious to hear the vote tonight, but staff have been at it for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So.
I'm in your hands, Your Worship. I'll turn it back to you, but yeah, I think staff would probably appreciate a break.
All right, it's 10 minutes, no more, please, everyone.
And the challenge accepted. Today we're reimagining Terminal Avenue as a walkable, green, and beautiful downtown street.
If we can reconvene, please. Any questions for staff? Councillor Eastmere. Well, Councillor Prino beat you to it, actually. We'll have to go second now.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question for Mr. Horms. Can you tell me, on that road, how much around Westwood Lake does the city actually own? Can you just take us through that? But there was just some talk, particularly by one of the speakers, about all the future developments that could happen, and I'm just wondering if you could point out the land that we actually own.
Yeah, I think that would be a little bit tough with the information that we have, but largely, I think the speaker was probably referring to the land fronting Arbit Road, whereas the city owns land, a small portion of land fronting Arbit Road where adjacent to Bethlehem Retreat.
Okay.
There's access to the lake and trails there, and then of course the land surrounding the lake as well on the south side, and then down to around the entirety of the lake along the trail to the main parking lot on the I guess the northeast side of the lake, obviously, and then land fronting, obviously, the lake trail on the north side of the lake as well. So, but I think the parcels that they were concerned about developing were the larger parcels fronting on Arbit Road.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, Mr. Holm, what we're talking about, one is obviously the manufactured home park or recreational park. There's 6 properties. The city already owns the one on the extreme, as I'm facing the photograph, the one on the extreme left, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The triangular portion.
Yes, that's city property.
Farther over.
Sorry, further over?
Yeah, it appears not to be on the screen there.
Okay, so there's a triangle at that end.
I think.
And so we're talking about 6 properties, and this one is in the middle. Ms. Davis?
Through the chair, if we could have one of our team explain. Thank you.
Ms. Davis, thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship. Yes, the triangle piece that adjoins the Bethlehem Centre was acquired by the city and is city land.
Sorry, if you could speak more into the mic.
Sorry, the triangle portion on the leftmost on that image there is owned by the city and is city land, yes.
The large portion?
Yes.
Just to be clear, can someone put an arrow on it so we're all clear? That portion?
Yes.
Is owned by the city?
Yes. It does extend further, yes. I'm sorry. With this map in front of us, it's not the most clear image we have available.
Sorry, I put you on the spot, and I apologize.
I just want everyone to be clear.
I wanted to be clear as well, yeah. I'm done, thank you.
Councillor Brown. Sorry.
That triangle piece that's going off screen is zoned AR2. There's another triangle piece further that is zoned PRC1. So I just want to be clear there that does the city own an AR2 fee simple parcel?
If I could just have one moment, I want to double check the map. Thank you very much.
Can we pull the map up on the screen? Your Worship, can you just give us, I think if this is an important point for council, I'll just ask maybe staff can take a moment. We'll just pull the mapping up on the screen. You're just seeing a snapshot around the site right now.
All right, are there any other questions? Councillor Hemmons?
I perhaps can help.
Perhaps you could present it to staff, Mr. Blackman. Thank you. In the meantime, Councillor Hemmons, you have a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I have a couple of questions. In terms of the Bethlehem Retreat Centre and the necessity of quiet and solitude there, do we have any mechanisms in place in the city if we were to support construction next to what I would call a sensitive neighbor, like a seniors care facility? Is there any protections that we can put in place to manage construction noise?
Mr. Holm.
Through your worship to Councillor Hemmons, I mean, it is quite difficult to manage construction noise, obviously through the course of construction. I understand, I mean, there's noise developed through construction that's understandable, pretty hard to mitigate. There are tools that can be used, nuisance easement potentially to address ongoing noise or nuisance through land use, but not necessarily, I don't think it would be a good tool necessarily through the course of construction. Of course, the city does have a noise bylaw that does mitigate noises that would mitigate construction noise during certain hours. Yeah, I think it would be difficult to actually try and address construction noise through any mechanisms that the city has that would be that would really allow construction to proceed in a financially viable manner. I don't think it's necessarily feasible.
Thank you. Another question, if I may. One of the delegations said that the water pressure and the water quality in the neighborhood has gone down significantly. Is city aware of this? Do we have any record or knowledge of this?
Through your worship to Councillor Cummins, no. I mean, Mr. Sims would be best to speak to that, but no. Obviously the city has treatment in place and flushing programs and monitoring water quality. Not aware of any issues, and the assessments were done of the services in place, and the utilities would support the proposal that's presented through this rezoning.
Thank you. And one last one, if I may, Your Worship. That is, we had an email from a concerned resident about this proposed development, and that resident had indicated a potential to use community amenity contributions all for support of Westwood Lake Park. Would that be possible? Right now, it's currently, if approved, will go 40% to Housing Legacy and 60% to park and trail improvements. Can you, I should know this and I apologize, can you please tell me the discretion we have to allocate all of the CACs directly to the park? And thank you, those are my questions.
Sure, through your worship, and I know I mean, this has been done before on the fly recently with respect to community amenity contribution changes to proposal of community amenity contribution. It's council's discretion at the end of the day if a motion were supported to change what's proposed here. You know, that's a council's prerogative. Although, you know, obviously just I will mention that obviously these are negotiated with applicants in good faith in line with council's policy and are proposed by the applicant. So although it is council's prerogative to change that, I just mentioned that, just that, yeah, typically that doesn't happen, and typically there's negotiations that result in a proposal that aligns with council's policy, and it's brought forward for council's consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? And just to confirm, the triangular piece that we're talking about up in the extreme left-hand corner, as I face it, the other piece, that piece is privately, the one that's just been colored in and obscured is privately owned, and the city owns the other triangular piece beyond, correct?
Your worship, the one that's being highlighted right now on the screen is city-owned property, and I think the property that was being referred to in the earlier delegation is that one, which is privately owned.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it is the, I'm sorry, I didn't make
If someone could take the white thing off the screen, it would probably be easier for us to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had to make my submissions quickly, but the properties that I was referring to were the adjacent properties, two to the west of the subject property, 3 to the east, and 1 directly across the road, Arbit Road, and that's 2.5 acres.
Okay. And the triangle that was just highlighted?
This triangle here is owned by the city.
Owned by the city?
Yeah, and I didn't refer to that.
No, thank you. But just
triangle across Arbit Road.
Just to be clear, what I'm getting at is in terms of the potential development and the wall of condos that some have referred to, you're talking about the sister's property, Dr. Winkler's property, this property, Bethlehem Retreat Center and the adjacent land, right? In other words, 5 parcels, as opposed to the triangle, which is already owned by the city. If we can just highlight that again, the property owned by the city, please.
Just click on it, please.
Can you click on it? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, good.
Every time I
As long as we're all clear.
on highlight.
Well, council, there's a recommended motion to rezone.
No.
It's time to get on with the debate. Someone going to make the recommended motion? If not, nothing will happen. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, I was going to wait until second reading, but I'll make it now. I won't be voting in favor of this for the simple reason that I do not believe we have enough CC6 land in the city. It's very limited.
Councillor, if we're not getting a motion on the table, we're not going to debate
That's why I asked you.
something. I know, and that's why I'm asking.
There you go.
Is someone,
I said I was
moved
gonna-
Councillor Brown, seconded?
Your worship, I'm sorry, it's a bylaw, so the bylaw needs to be
Yes,
read.
has to be.
Yes. Councillor Manley's going to read it. Yes.
I'm talking. Oh, there we go. Move that zoning amendment bylaw 2025 number 4500.246 to rezone 2367 Arbot Road from Commercial Recreation Center, CC6, to low-density residential R6 with a site-specific height and lot coverage pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Councillors, we'll get to second reading. If you want to speak at first reading, let's speak at first. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's important to speak to it at this reading because I will be voting in opposition. I sympathize that when it comes to these issues, and there's a lot of variables that people in the community can tie certain issues together, but at this table, the decision before us is very strictly land use, and that is the basis on which I'm making my decision. That whole area is the same designation within the OCP, or the city plan, which is suburban. I do think there's a lot of good justification for increased density in our city, and I, be very honest, I missed the refinement here when we were adopting the OCP. I don't think this is a particular great place for increased density in the near term. Further, I do think the area is probably suitable for increased density as the city grows, but not on the lakefront. I agree with a lot of the applicants and those that, or the presenters and the delegates and those that emailed that when it comes to parkland, I think on the other side there's quite a bit of green space, but on this side it's actually quite a narrow band. And I don't think opposing this actually preserves that green space. I want to be very clear. There is a existing zoning in place for all those parcels that could see it developed. But I do think that if it's developed at this density, I agree that it will erode and undermine the existing parcels, and as a result, this density will be realized on at least 5 of them over time. So for that reason, I'm not supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Now, I'm opposed for the simple reason that we don't have enough CC6 zoning in the city, and that zoning that we do have is just about all downtown. So I think we need to keep that zoning. I think it's very important for future recreational spots, et cetera. And so it's simply for the reason that I don't agree with the change in zoning that I'm voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. I do know that we need to densify, and the previous rezoning application, I had no problem supporting on Upland. So that's half a kilometer from an urban center. It's on a bus line. It's on an urban collector. It meets all the criteria for city plan and is actually identified in city plan as an area for densification. In this case, I would agree with Councillor Brown. This is not really an area, it's a suburban area. It's not an area for densification. I do remember I swam at Westwood Lake as a toddler, so I remember when all of this was farmland up there. And things do change. The city is changing rapidly, and it's changed a lot since I was a kid. And managing growth is part of the job, to ensure that we make good land use decisions. And I agree with Councillor Armstrong about the CC6 Commercial Recreation Center zoning. That's a rare zoning in this community, but this is zoning that is right on the lake. And I think that there's opportunities here, you know, for the use of that zoning that fits in with the lake and fits in with the neighborhood and fits in with the long-range plans for the community. So for those reasons, I won't be supporting this zoning change. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, as already stated, I think this is an inappropriate spot to put that type of residential density. Also, the commercial recreation center zoning, I think it's important. It provides important community amenities, especially on the lakefront, and we'd be losing that. And so, you know, if we did change the zoning into residential, I do 100% agree that it would put extreme amount of pressure on the properties all along that area and to cash out, and no reason for a council to, you know, no authority to not change that zoning once we do it here. So I'm not in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship, and some comments of my own. You only have to go up to Lindley Valley to see how beautiful it is, and there's you know, quite a large pond there and lots of birds. It's gorgeous. There's a walking area, there's townhouses, there's condos, there's single-family homes. I mean, this can be beautiful. My biggest concern is that an R6 zone, which is what we're doing today, we're actually looking at changing the zone, is very minimal. And that pleases me because this area should be as minimal as possible. And because they're townhouses, they use less land, less water for lawns and that kind of thing. It does make a difference. And I am very concerned that the CC6 zone, you might not be very happy with what could come in the future. When Councillor Eastmere talked about some of the different things that could be there, you might not like it. And so it's, that's a concern for all of us. So having a minimal development is pleasing. However, I certainly agree with Mr. Blackman. Developing out the whole area would be extensive and would be too much, and I agree with that. I would, in fact, prefer to leave it as a commercial recreation center, if possible. But again, if you're living up there and pickleball becomes the order of the day on those tennis courts, you might find it very uncomfortable to live close by. And believe me, they're not a bird in sight once they hear the pounding. So, you know, it has its positives and negatives. So I'm still weighing this, but I would like to see it stay commercial recreation, but I'm concerned for the future. And the less development there, the better. And that's why I was very much in favor of looking at an R6 zone, because it's the least amount of damage. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere, then Councillor Thorpe, and then Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who took the time to write to council about this. I think it's compelling to hear the different concerns and feedback from people, and I note that many were not form letters. They were people in their own words saying their concerns, which goes a long way. It's, for me, I feel conflicted because I do see the work that the developers put into adapting the plan based on the community consultation. I do think the version of the plan that they showed is certainly an improvement for a number of reasons. And I do like the addition of the public pathway from Arbit Road to Westwood Lake. And, you know, when you do look at that list of what is allowed under C6 zoning, which I went through earlier, it's uses that would bring a lot of people to that site, and it could be redeveloped and there would still be construction noise. And so the arguments about like impact on neighborhood don't carry a lot of weight with me, to be honest, because when you see about the impact of something like a bingo hall or a club or a lodge or a cultural facility, that would draw just as many folks to the area, if not more, than having multifamily dwellings on that site. That said, it's true that we have a limited number of CR6 or CRC zoned properties, and I do think around a public amenity space like Westwood Lake, retaining that commercial recreation center zoning is most appropriate. And it's really hard when we're doing rezonings because we're not supposed to be looking at the conceptual plans. We're really just supposed to be thinking about land use purely, and that does make it really difficult when you see a conceptual plan and you're promised something like a path. But if I put that aside and I really just think about land use, I have to agree that keeping the current zoning is what I feel is best at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Your Worship, through you, if I may, my thoughts are, first of all, thank you to the delegations that took the time and the neighbors that took the time to come out tonight. We do appreciate hearing from you. And these are difficult decisions. I hope you understand that. We're trying at this table to do what we feel is best for the city. It's complicated when I look around and see some friends in the audience, and I know those friends are going to be disappointed in me, so maybe I should start to refer to them as former friends. But I will support the rezoning proposal, and I'll tell you why. I think, first of all, let's acknowledge that nobody likes to see their neighborhood changed, and that's always difficult. I think this proposal is a moderate proposal compared to what we could be faced with, and I acknowledge the efforts that the developer has made to listen to some of the concerns and to modify their original plan. I think we need to remember that this is private property. We are not talking about rezoning parkland. We're not talking about destroying the lake, as I think I heard somebody say. This is private property, and the owner wishes to sell and redevelop, and that is absolutely their right. Personally, I would love it if it stayed as a recreational facility, but apparently that's not in the cards. That's not going to happen. So the person has a right to request rezoning and to sell their land. I don't think there's going to be a loss of natural buffer to the lake, so I can't accept this argument about a row of condos on the lake. That's just not going to happen. The buffer will still be there. In fact, where this proposal increases access to the lake. So I just feel that the rezoning is reasonable. I think that the concept plan that we have been shown is reasonable. I think the density is reasonable. And I'm sorry if that disappoints people, but I'm prepared to accept this rezoning. And I'll also just point out that it is consistent with our city plan policies for suburban neighborhood land use. So that's where I'm at on this. And again, my apologies to my friends, but I'm going to support this rezoning. I am sensing that a majority of my colleagues will not, but I guess we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. And thank you mostly to the delegations and to the people who have written into council. I agree with Councillor Eastmere. When we receive heartfelt letters that aren't form letters, that goes a long way and is quite compelling. I was prepared to support the rezoning tonight. I agree with Councillor Thorpe. I believe the environmental considerations have been attended to. I don't believe that there's the loss of that natural buffer. I think this is a reasonable development for that neighborhood. layer in what could go in the current zoning, and I thank Councillor Eastmere for reading that list. I want to say some of those things again. Currently, with no rezoning, an assembly hall, a bingo hall, a commercial school, a cultural facility, a golf course. These are uses that could be contemplated without rezoning. So I found that compelling. What has made me change my mind is I agree with the delegation who asserts that this could be a domino effect or a knock-on effect for those 5 properties, and that does concern me because this is a really special area. And so, yeah, I've been conflicted all day about this, but I think I'm landing solidly and steadily on denying this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to side with Councillor Thorpe tonight, which may surprise some of you, and I'll explain my reasons why. When you look at the staff report, which is publicly available, it's very clear. The existing lot coverage permitted is 50% of the land. The proposed site-specific R6 zone is 30% of the land. As far as I'm concerned, something that occupies 30% is better than something that occupies 50% when you're concerned about density. In terms of population, with great respect, and I've told this story, but it's a new audience, so I'll tell it again. Sharon and I have lived in the same house for 42 years on Bay Street. Just down the road, they developed a village on the green. Patio homes largely, some of them have a basement, I think some might be 2 stories, suitable for seniors, designed for seniors. There will come a time where maybe I won't want to live in my single-family dwelling. I'll get tired of cutting the grass and putting in the flowers and planting the bulbs every year and trying to keep my neighbors happy to make sure my yard doesn't look messy. And Sharon and I can move down the street to that seniors, I won't call it a facility, but it's designed for seniors. Many of you who live in the neighborhood will discover at a certain point that you may not wish to continue to live in what are in my observation, having toured the area, appear to be some very substantive, very expensive homes. Keeping in mind that provincial legislation is fairly clear now, fairly large lot, somebody can, without question, is entitled to put 4 dwelling places on it. Your homes will get old, they will get developed, the neighborhood will change. Another story, when Sharon and I married, there were just the 2 of us. Then we had 2 kids, and not including a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law, they produced 5 grandchildren. So now there's 9 of us all looking for a place to live in Nanaimo, and mercifully, they've all got real estate. Change is the nature of the game. This is, relative to the amount of land involved, a reasonable proposal. The path is guaranteed. There will be further plantings. There will be further proposals that will come. And yes, Councillor Hammond's comments about maybe a domino effect at some point. But you have a very large park that covers the vast, vast majority of the lakefront of this particular property. So I guess it's almost out of sentiment as much as anything. I don't like to see Councillor Thorpe alone on an issue because he's always got the courage to take a position that may be contrary to the public opinion of those in the audience. But my job is not to think about those in the audience necessarily. It's to think about future generations. We are all going to die. I hate to tell you this, but we're all going to die, and we're going to move, and we're going to sell, and our personal interest in our neighborhood will change over time. And I guess I think the proposal is a reasonable one. Points have been made about densification. We are going to densify in this community because people want to live here. It's a lovely place to live. You have a magnificent park. And yes, it is a jewel, Ms. Powell. And it's a jewel because all of the other taxpayers in Nanaimo just sunk a hell of a lot of money into putting in some incredible improvements in that park, which has probably enhanced the value of your property. So I would suggest that everyone reflect on that because everyone in the city of Nanaimo has contributed to that improvement. And I'm grateful to the park staff for the vision and the work they've created over many years. So let's call the vote on this, and Councillor Thorpe and I can then move on to the next contentious one. All those in favor? Councillors Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, those opposed, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Gesselbach, please, no clapping. Perino, Councillor Brown, Councillor Manley and Councillor Hemmons. The motion is defeated. Sorry? You're opposed? Yeah. Sorry, opposed, yes. Yes, we know, I mentioned you. All right, we're on to rezoning application number RA 518-3614 Hillside Avenue. Councillor Manley, once more with, well, we'll give everyone a minute to clear out here. I am wounded but not yet slain. The others back down.
Pickleball, Nancy, pickleball.
Now, Councillor Manley, if you could, please.
Thank you. I had some questions for staff about this, if I could.
Certainly.
So we've seen some emails with questions about this particular property, and I'm just curious if it was it's 3,892 square meters, and the lot size you're allowed is 600 meters squared. If this was subdivided and stayed R5, somebody could put almost as many homes on it. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Manley, it's really difficult to say, just looking at it on the surface without somebody going through a proposal. In theory, the property could be subdivided into how many lots. I'm not sure. Each one would have to have road frontage. So subdivision's a different, consideration, but it could be subdivided into a number, not sure how many, R5 lots, and each would support 4 units.
Okay. And there were just questions, and I noticed looking at the report actually that the building height is the same as if it was R5 zoning. It hasn't changed. They're not asking for a variance or anything like that with the that could happen with the development permit later on.
Through your worship, yeah, that's correct. The zoning that the height that's proposed is consistent with what would be expected through R5.
Okay, thanks. Like me to go ahead and read the. Okay. So I move the zoning amendment bylaw 2025 number 4500.244 to rezone 3614 Hillside Avenue from 3 and 4 unit residential R5 to low density residential R6 with a site specific density and height past first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I'm quite familiar with this area, and I know there's like a lot of slope there. The property behind's R7. But just with the constraints of access, like I think it's trying to cram too much density into that lot, so I'm not in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, you wish to speak to it first reading?
Well, I wish to speak at second reading.
Okay,
I
all
much
right.
prefer that.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor on first reading? Councillors Armstrong, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Prino, Councillor Brown, and Councillor Hemmons. And those opposed on first reading, Councillors Eastmere, Gesselbrock, and Manley. Motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Manley?
Zoning amendment bylaw 2025 number 4500.244 pass second reading.
Seconded. Councillor Prino. Discussion. Councillor Thorpe? Or Councillor Armstrong beat you to it?
Well, go ahead. Councillor Thorpe, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor Armstrong.
No, it's just, like, I'm really struggling with this one as well. Like, I think we've approved 2 other very large developments in the area. without much opposition or anything. This one, we've seen quite a few concerns, whatever, and my concern is the traffic on a very tight road that's got issues already, and just the number of units that are going to be crammed into a small area is concerning, but I want to hear from other councillors first to hear their concerns or what do you call it, support of.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, I do have a question, and then I'll have some comment. And my question through you is regarding the term site-specific density in the report, which concerns me. And I don't recall, maybe it's my lack of memory, but I don't recall seeing this term used in other applications, and I'm very curious about how this applies. Would you mind explaining this, Mr. Holm?
Yeah, sure. Through Your Worship, I'm happy to. So that it's not that unusual, and it's a specific density then that would apply to that parcel. In fact, there was one earlier tonight under the Uplands property. It was R8 with a site-specific density. So it's just trying to recognize that in this case, the proposal originally was actually to rezone to R7, which would have allowed, I think it's up to 1.05 floor area ratio. That's how density's calculated. So it's the permitted floor area divided by the area of the lot. So recognizing, taking feedback from comment on the application and reviewing through the staff review as well, it was recognized that that level of density was inappropriate for the site. The R7 density outright. The applicant also, in receiving public feedback, recognized that the setbacks in the R7 zone were not appropriate to the site, given the grade and some of the concerns neighbors had expressed about development in close proximity. The R7 allows 1.5 meter side yard setback. So what was arrived at was an R6 zone, which would permit, as Councillor Manley had referenced, similar same height as permitted through the existing R5 zone that applies to the property, with a site-specific density. So the site-specific density limiting density in the lot to 0.7. So, which is the obviously less than the 1.05 that would have been permitted through the outright R7 zone they originally applied for. So basically, we arrived at a zone that increased the site-specific zone. That so we've got increased side yard setbacks, increased setbacks from adjacent property, and limited density on the property than was originally requested. So yeah, site-specific density. Sorry, long-winded answer. Site-specific density is not unusual in a rezoning where we don't have. I think this is a case where we don't really have a zone in the bylaw right now that really responds well to some of the suburban neighborhood designated properties. I think that's probably what this is reflecting, and that's work that I think we intended to undertake through the rewrite of the zoning bylaw. There's some gaps where city plan actually changed some areas from neighborhood to suburban neighborhood designation, so lower form, less impactful than the old neighborhood designation under the previous plan. So that's where actually Westwood Lake, you saw similarly, there was a proposal previously for 4 stories on the lake. That area was changed from neighborhood to suburban neighborhood. 4 stories is no longer supported. Lower form, ground oriented, so ground level front doors, walk up. So in this case, what we're finding is there's a gap, and in a couple of other cases, there's a gap between the R6 zone density and then the R7, and so we've landed on a site specific to the R6 that meets the intent of the community plan. Hopefully that helps.
All right, I appreciate the information, and I think I understand. It does confirm my hesitation over this development. and I feel differently about this one than I did about the previous project in front of us. I personally feel that this is too dense for the area. The question always is how much density is too much density. So I did visit the property this morning, and that confirmed my suspicions that that I cannot support this. And while I have the microphone, Your Worship, if I may, I'd also like to express a concern about the community amenity contribution, which, if I notice, 40% directed toward City Housing Legacy Reserve Fund, remaining 60% directed toward active transportation improvements within the city. Immediately across the street from this address is a park access trail to a city park, which, to my opinion, is in desperate need of maintenance and upgrading. And I mean no offense to our city park staff. So I would much prefer we look at some contribution towards parks and trail improvements in the neighborhood rather than a general donation to citywide initiatives. So bottom line for me on this one is I won't be supporting it. I don't think the density is appropriate for the site. Thank you.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Yeah, I had similar reservations about this because it is in an area that's close to the urban core, and we do want to see density in those areas, but it's not uplands, and uplands is where we do have that higher density zone. And just looking at the conceptual site plan, it's like seems to be cramming in a lot of housing into a small piece of property. I unfortunately did not get a chance to drive by and have a look at this property, and I regret that. But I didn't see the letters about it until today, and did not have time to go and have a look. But yeah, I have misgivings about putting this much density in an area that, from what I understand, is steep and maybe problematic for the neighbors. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to support this without any hesitation. The staff recommendation is to support, and I want to draw council's attention to the report again. Quote, the surrounding area is predominantly characterized by established single-family dwellings, multi-family developments, parkland, Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park, and is located approximately 440 meters from Uplands Elementary School. If we're living under some illusion that everyone is going to enjoy the benefits of living on a single-family dwelling, on a single-family lot in this community, then we will continue to turn down these kind of developments in areas where people will want to live. Maybe I can't afford a single-family dwelling in the neighborhood, but I might be able to afford a townhouse that would accommodate myself, my children, perhaps a student at VIU who needs a housing accommodation. And by the way, if you go to the page 103, it's very clear. The existing R5 zone allows lot coverage of 50%. The proposed site-specific R6 zone, which we're being asked to change this to, provides a 40% lot coverage. So all I'm saying is if you want to have mixed neighborhoods and you want to allow people who perhaps can't afford in the neighborhood, then turn down townhouse developments like this that enable struggling families, poorer families, and poorer folks to be able to afford to live in neighborhoods. Otherwise, if the concept we're going to cram everybody into townhouses that surround urban cores only, that limits the choice of our citizens. And frankly, I think they're entitled to live in single-family neighborhoods in townhouses on occasion. And this strikes me as a reasonable development in the circumstances, particularly, as I say, given the fact that they will have relatively close access to a school for their families and for parklands. So I have no hesitation in supporting the proposed rezoning. All those in favor, say moi. Councillor Brown, Councillor Perino, Councillor Hemmons, and those opposed, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Gesselbrock, Thorpe, and Manley. This one is defeated as well. We're on to bylaws. Councillor Manley, bylaw enforcement amendment, bylaw 2025, number 7159.25. Please.
Scribe just decided to kick out on me. Yeah, just booted me.
It's getting tired.
Yeah, it's been doing it off and on. I move the bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw 2025 number 7159.25 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Next is 14B, Housing Agreement Bylaw 2025, number 7426.
I move that housing agreement bylaw 2025 number 7426 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. C, Housing Agreement Bylaw 2025, number 7427.
I move that housing agreement bylaw 2025 number 7427 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
On to correspondence. The Mid-Island Elder College Society request for letter of support re-community gaming grant. Someone care to make the recommended motion? Move Councillor Perino, seconded. Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Eastmere? 15. It's been moved and seconded. Everyone on board now? All those in favor? Well, please, if you could hold your hands up, it would be nice. Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Gesselbrock, Krog, blah, blah, blah. We're all in favor. Thank you very much. Very kind, everyone. We have no notices of motion. Other business?
Your Worship, actually, I believe Councillor Brown does have a notice of motion. He provided it to me earlier this evening.
Oh, Councillor Brown.
Isn't that blah, blah, blah to you?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a notice, very quick, that staff be directed to include process clarity related to motions arising from delegations and correspondence as part of the next housekeeping amendments for Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272.
Thank you very much. On to other business. Councillor Armstrong. You're not coming up. I'm going to try you from here.
Try again,
There you go.
Okay. The council directs staff to engage with RCMP, BC Emergency Health Services, Nanaimo Fire Rescue Department, and BC Transit prior to any traffic calming or road changes. It is requested each department speak with the drivers of said agencies to ensure their concerns are heard, and furthermore, any comments received by these agencies be included for mayor and council for review.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Thorpe.
And to speak to it, I heard loud and clear from many ambulance drivers and police officers, as well as some of the fire departments, that they feel that their concerns are not being heard, that they're not being consulted, and they've got a lot of concerns about some of the changes, especially on emergency routes. So that's why I brought it forward, was on their behalf.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Gesselbrock. Is it in everybody? It's everybody. Thank you.
No, not
sorry,
that.
Councillor Brown's opposed. Good man. We like a little opposition. Motion carries. Any items on question period, Ms. Gurry?
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much, staff. It's been a long day.